this is probably the best thing NIP have done in years. I can't think of things that they've done better in the last couple of years than this. They've just completely pulled the plug. And it's so funny because the issue I have is I think NIP, like when they make all the changes, they gas themselves up that it's like they're trying to believe that the choice that they made at the time is a good one. So then they try and sell that choice to the public. They're like, yeah, we're really going to get behind Alex. And then Alex is gone, yeah, like this is going to be the future. And it's like, well, no, that didn't go the way either, did it? It's like, yeah, we want it. Remember we had threat? It's like, yeah, we'll keep things, a little bit Swedish. And now it's like, well, the only Swede is the coach. So this is actually a tough position for them because they're going to have to qualify. But I really like the fact that Snappy gets, a couple of young, plucky upstarts that are going to be great soldiers for him, right? They're going to go to battle. They're going to do exactly what he says. He's not going to have to worry about any of the egos. And, some younger names that definitely have the firepower.
The world is changing quickly. Shoot it.
The world is changing, but one thing remains the same. Victories with 1xBet.
Sell in-game items at the best prices in just a couple of clicks. We are the biggest instant sell service for in-game items like Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, and Rust. Easy selling process and instant withdrawal of funds to the most popular payment methods. More than 140,000 deals and 50,000 active sellers every month. Use promo code HLTV5 and get a 5% bonus on the sale of your skins. Skin Place. Sell items now.
Since the dawn of CSGO, we have been there. Observers of all that competition can reveal. Elation, fear, triumph and heartache reach out from every frame. From the small studios and conference rooms to the epic arenas, the feeling is still the same. We live and breathe this game. This was CSGO Through the Lens. Buy now at hltv.org/shop.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Counter-Strike fans across the globe, welcome back to another episode of HLTV Confirmed, powered by our lovely sponsors, 1xBet. Remember to gamble responsibly. And Skin Place, if you're in the market to sell some skins, head over to Skin Place, see what you can get for them. All right, we're back with another episode. It's Monday. It's 3 p.m. in Central Europe. It's 10 p.m. down here in Perth, Western Australia. Same time zone as China. That's a fun fact. Prof, you got any fun facts for me?
Fun fact. There's one about... I can't do it right now. There's one about a type of fish that only mates in the Bermuda Triangle. Do you know about this?
No. Okay. The fish that only mates in the Bermuda Triangle. This feels like a joke. Yeah.
But it's actually true. People in the chat will know there's a book about this.
Okay.
I'll link it in the description below, and you can learn a lot about it. It's a very interesting fish.
I imagine it's a tropical fish of some type.
Well, it's one of those. It's not a salmon. Maybe it's not necessarily a fish, but it's a sea creature. Let's say.
A sea creature.
It's a sea creature.
Okay. All right. Have you eaten any sea creatures recently, Striker?
I'm not very much into seafood, so not really.
So no sea creatures have entered your mouth that you know of.
Not that I know of. Probably some did.
Well,
at some point.
At some point, I'm sure. All right. Well, gentlemen, tonight's show, we're actually just gonna end the show because we did receive a comment in the thread from Mini Beach that said, "Here's a thought: wait until after the roster shuffles rather than doing a new episode every damn time you have a single update." But anything noteworthy to mention so far is just Falcons having signed roster in which you already knew about in the last episode. So we are just going to turn it off. Everybody. And I think Sealers9 exposed themselves in the Twitch chat as that same user. So people really got to think about this, Prof. If they're going to make similar sentiments from Twitch chat and on the forums, we're going to be able to work out who they are. And once we do that, we can triangulate their position, and I will go to their triangle.
Like this.
Exactly.
This is not.
And the sea creatures. I'll take a bunch of sea creatures and I'll fill their fucking mouths.
Because everybody knows that people's flags on HLTV are real and nobody's faking them.
Yes, that's true. All flags are real at all times. I should change my flag. Where should I be from? I wouldn't mind like a little Japanese flag, I reckon. That could be.
There are some good ones. We added a bunch like not that long ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
what is Lucas about? He's writing something in chat. Is everything fine or no?
Which chat?
TeamSpeak chat? Is he trolling me?
He wants us to keep the joke rolling, but it's too late now, Lucas. The timing's
too late
off.
Now. We've just exposed the joke. Yeah, that's right. We tried. I don't know if Cocos Islands has their own flag. I think it's technically part of Australia. That'd be a nice place. I'd like to go there.
The Maldives have a pretty cool flag. They have like a rainbow, but it's like a prism almost of light. I think it's really cool.
That's where fish go.
Isle of Man, but I don't think that's actually technically a country. So,
what a start to the show this has been, guys. Spoken about flags, triangles, fish, but there are things to talk about, right? There's definitely still stuff going on now. Striker, have you seen Game of Thrones?
Of course.
So like you can pick. You can either be like the eunuch, what is his name, Varys, or you can be like Littlefinger. You can pick. Like, you can be one of those type of characters.
I think it's better not to have a dick than to die. I'm sorry.
I don't know.
But either way, you've got your little birds, right? So I was just gonna. Are the birds still chirping? Is there still stuff going on? Is there still rumblings?
We kind of reported on everything. I actually can't think of anything that people don't know about. I mean, there's probably some stuff that's gonna come through about Heroic and the rest of the stuff that they're going to do because we reported about their interest in the Sungal core, right? But there's also some rumors about some bios being another one of those targets, and then obviously they're still missing one more piece, assuming Shush goes to an IP Nerds goes to Liquid, as we reported previously as well. Honestly, it seems like at least all the big stuff is out there already. Everything that we've heard, we've reported on.
Okay, so we're going to do the same thing we did last episode, which is operate under the assumption that everything that's out there now is going to happen. And then if it doesn't, we'll talk about it if it doesn't, right? So since then, only a couple of things have actually come through. One of them being the Falcons thing, but we spoke about that ad nauseum because we knew what the roster was going to be, right? So I don't think we need to bother rehashing any of that, but we should talk about some of the newer things. Now, Prof, was it you in our WhatsApp chat linked that Reddit thread of a person saying, "Oh, why don't Heroic just try and buy a core of another team?"
Yeah.
And then it was like downvoted to oblivion, and people were like, "You don't understand how the industry works. It costs so much money to do something like that." And the whole thread was just downvoted, and it's like that's exactly what Heroic ended up doing. They look, well, if it all goes to plan, they're going to buy a core, right? So, Prof, did you take great joy in reading all of that?
I thought it was very funny. I mean, obviously, because behind the scenes, we knew this was a possibility that this was going to happen. It wasn't reported yet. And just like finding this thread, a person actually making a lot of sense and just being downvoted. It's just very funny, especially because you can't say anything. You can't even come in and be like, obviously you guys are wrong and like try to argue. You just like let it be. And it's a little enjoyable piece of trivia there, even though I have to say it wasn't like the most obvious move at the time. I think what we talked about also, like maybe a more obvious move would be to pick up a Sunpias, a Snappy, Spinks and stuff like that and build a new core, instead of picking up like someone like Sangal that has been pretty good, but hasn't really broken through. I think they've done everything online that they should have, and maybe a bit of LAN on EPL, but then the Armart and Major didn't go as they would want to.
Didn't
and
go
then
at all. It didn't even start.
Didn't go.
No.
It didn't go. It was pretty dog shit, to be honest. And because of that, recency bias and also like I would say importance of the tournament bias, just had them kind of super sidelined in this whole discussion about teams and talents and whatnot, right? So I think it's probably much cheaper, let's say, than getting Spinks and Sunpias.
Well, considering, right, the fact that Sammy, however the guy's name was, he was no longer part of the roster or benched or whatever, and then Joda go into Eternal Fire, so they were down to 3 pieces anyway. So, like, and for Sangal, it's not like it's a massive organization. So, depending on the type of money that they're hoping to get for those type of players, I'd sure it'd be a big boon for them regardless, because normally they're not one of those teams to find themselves getting poached in that regard, especially not with players going to an established organization like Heroic. But let's just reiterate it, right? Because Striker definitely touched on it, but in case some of our viewers aren't familiar with what was reported on, it's going to be the core. So LNZ, the Swede, will be the in-game leader, right? We're going to have Youngster in there as well. He's another Swede. And that's going to leave us with Xfloud, the Turkish individual, with the rumor around looking to get some Pius, so some Pius back under Saw, and then Nilo. So it'd be a primarily Swedish team. So you have to look at this and go, okay, it's kind of exciting, right? Like the fact that it's Saw getting, some young players. Let's see what he can do with them. And it gives them an opportunity to play in the better tournaments early on as well. So all of those things kind of get ticked in the right direction. Otherwise, for Heroic, the option was, as Prof, you were just saying, hey, start again, build a core of established names, and hope you can qualify. They're still going to be able to make changes throughout, right? So we'll see kind of how that all filters forward. But is this exciting to anybody, or is it just like, yeah, this is just a good move?
I have to say that I like it. At least I like it better than them just buying out an entire team. Like, there's maybe a couple of options, or like, let's say a 3D Max or Saw, which are going to be teams that you can't really build upon because they're local. They're not going to be, you're not going to have opportunities, to bring in some bias to complement those sort of rosters, even though they would have been more competitive, and 3D Max or Saw probably would have been easier to buy than a lot of these big players. And you would get kind of some of those invites to go along with them, to the bounty, to Katowice, because I think they're high enough for both of those EPL. You'd get a better start, but you couldn't really build upon it for the future, for the next season and stuff. So I'd rather they start a little bit less ambitious and then just have somewhere to grow, because otherwise what can you do? Like, yeah, you can try to pick all these kind of like leftovers, you can try to get a Hooksy or Snappy, and then try to get a Spinks and try to get a Sampires, but probably that would have been very expensive, even though they're all benched, or in some way probably not as expensive as they would have been if they actually had to buy them out of a active roster, right? But I mean, that's the angle that I think Heroic is thinking with the approach for Sungal.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, right? And then if they wanted to, like, say that Linus isn't really cutting the mustard, you're talking about a couple of in-game leader names there that could be pickups in the future or whatnot. So it gives them flexibility. And I think for these orgs, it's probably better to stay international just because of the different players that are going to be available, right? It gives you a much more open playing field to work with. Prof, you got much more you want to say about Heroic, or should we jump forth?
Yeah, I mean, most important thing is I managed to Google what I was talking about earlier, and this is the fish. Okay. This is the title of the article: Mysterious Eel Sex in the Bermuda Triangle. And yes, It is true. All the eels in Europe and America are born in the Sargasso Sea and the Bermuda Triangle. This is a fun fact. So there you go. What I wanted to say about Heroic, I mean, I think they did some good business overall. I think they
definitely made money.
They definitely made some money on this. I think they have some like promising players. It's very interesting that they have like a Swedish core, and at the same time, NIP just like went away from it. Considering there was like at least Nilo, who was, I felt like even if NIP wanted to stay international, that's a player that they should have gotten, and like have him like part of the identity and brand, as you still want to have some like marketing power within the country. But I feel like that's kind of a loss there, and I don't know why they couldn't fit them in, but it is what it is. Overall, good, but I would be more excited for the core of a Spinks and Sunpias together. So maybe also in the future that is something that can happen, because we haven't really heard anything about Spinks going anywhere right now. So
yeah, it is
you know,
interesting how Sphinx has shot himself in the foot like that, isn't it? Like, so he's essentially probably going to sit on the bench for the next 6 months until the next change happens, because you don't want to undercut your value by joining another team that's not worthy of you, right? And Sphinx is obviously a very good player. So for Sphinx, it is just going to be potentially a bit of an extended vacation. You know, he's going to be playing Counter-Strike. He's going to be playing pugs and doing all that type of stuff. But in terms of being on a team, if we're not hearing anything and Striker says it sounds like it's winding up, I can't even think of a place that would make sense unless Mouse had some...
phase for Rain would make a lot of sense, you know, to get the leash more into Rain. We were talking about it last time, right? Or for G2 and Hunter, you know, like it's kind of like a very obvious upgrade, at least in firepower. Obviously, you know, never know if it's going to work, and I'm sure there's a reason why they kept Hunter, you know, but that would have been the two places I would have looked at the most, probably.
Yeah. All right. Well, you're going to go through his little perfecto arc there, poor Spinks. All right, let's jump forward to our next piece of news. NIP, nice impromptu purchases. I thought I did well there.
I
didn't notice that either until you just said it. That's good.
So, look, NIP, for those who missed the news, well, it's not official news, but they're making some moves, and some big moves. Now, they're only going to keep Charlie Runkle. That is for anybody who remembers Californication out there. So they're going to keep Wrinkle, the Ukrainian AWPer, but they're going to bolster their forces and essentially just wipe the board clean. So after, 94 years, Rez will no longer be a part of the Ninjas in Pajamas. They're going to bring in Snappy to be the in-game leader. They're going to rescue Shush from Heroic as a nice anchor piece. And then they're going to add the rifling duo that was part of Saw once upon a time of Arisdos and Ujerks. Under the tutelage of Exist. So that's what could be going down. And we also saw from Hitchum, he was tweeting out some like ninja emojis. So I assume that was probably in reference to this, because it was going on about the same time. And then these reports came through the pipeline. This is probably the best thing NIP have done in years. I can't think of things that they've done better in the last couple of years than this. They've just completely pulled the plug. And it's so funny because the issue I have is I think NIP, like when they make all the changes, they gas themselves up that it's like they're trying to believe that the choice that they made at the time is a good one. So then they try and sell that choice to the public. They're like, yeah, we're really going to get behind Alex. And then Alex is gone, yeah, like this is going to be the future. And it's like, well, no, that didn't go the way either, did it? It's like, yeah, we want to, remember we had threat? It's like, yeah, we'll keep things, you know, a little bit Swedish. And now it's like, well, the only Swede is the coach. So this is actually a tough position for them because they're going to have to qualify. But I really like the fact that Snappy gets, you know, a couple of young, plucky upstarts that are going to be great soldiers for him, right? They're going to go to battle. They're going to do exactly what he says. He's not going to have to worry about any of the egos. And, you know, some younger names that definitely have the firepower. This one for me, for NIP, is a win, even though we might not see a lot of them. I think it's a W. I think it's a big dub. Does anybody see any negatives with this?
I mean, that ranking issue is obviously going to be the biggest one, that they were just not going to have anything to play. You know, that's a curious kind of maybe philosophical discussion about this, because technically they could apply as a wild card, assuming that you take ESL Challenger as a tier 1 event, because then they would have Snappy, who was a part of a top 8 roster in the past year after Katowice last year. Then Shush, same thing. He would have been a part of top 8 roster with Heroic. And then Ujerks won ESL Challenger with Saw after Arisdos went out. So technically, if ESL Challenger can be considered a tier 1 event, at least they would get the invite to Bounty that we're still waiting for, I think. And, you know, they could actually play something at the beginning. It would obviously be hard for them to get anything else because there are no other wild cards at the moment that I see. So it would kind of have to be a grind through the tier 2. But that's obviously going to be the biggest drawback for if this roster comes through, you know, for them to even break through at first before they get any opportunities to show themselves at the tier 1 level. And that's always going to be difficult because, you know, there's millions of teams who are going to be trying to do the same, you know, that and unless they finally get that one breakthrough, one big tournament or one qualification, and then a decent result at the tier 1 LAN that they play in, it's going to take a while before they can get somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, go.
I was just going to say, just on that, the fact that, right, so Falcons don't need the wildcard slot anymore from Bounty, right?
Yeah.
So then now there's 2.
They're just going to take over Heroics, yeah.
Yeah, so do you think that at the moment, and this is something because I've seen some discourse about this, and we'll get into it more later. But we touched on it briefly in past episodes, saying like Valve are going to be a little bit more lenient with things starting off the year, and the rules aren't going to be so rigidly followed in certain degrees because kind of need to feel things out and see how everything settles. If you're Blast and you're coming like into the new year and you're the first event and you have to do all of these invites, but all the rosters are essentially changing players and you don't exactly know how everything's landing. It does make it difficult for you as Blast to do your job and invite the correct teams or whatnot, because things are just constantly moving around. And if you're going to the teams and it's like, well, hold up, we're just dealing with these guys, we'll let you know on Monday. And then these guys are like, oh yeah, well, we're waiting on this and that. It's just like, fuck, like that's
also
not
why
easy.
you know what the Prof was talking about earlier, and that kind of causes some issues, is when you don't actually lock in everybody at the invite date, you know, because they kept this little door open, you know, for their second wildcard invite. They never actually said who that was going to be. It's not actually 100% clear that they have to say who that is at the time of the invite date and all that stuff, or you know, maybe they already invited that team, they just couldn't say who it is because that team's still being in the works and all that stuff. So that creates some issues with some of this transparency, you know, like how do we know that they didn't just go back on some invite that they promised before, you know, and then just give it to somebody else? It would just take that team to kind of complain like we were supposed to be at this event or whatever, you know. So obviously it's a difficult position to be in, but at the same time, it just comes with being the first event of the season. Always you're going to have struggles with, you know, waiting for teams to lock in their rosters. And now that you actually do have to wait for a core to form for you to be able to invite them and all that stuff, it becomes doubly difficult, you know, because there's no certainty in that. I don't think, as I said last time, I don't think there's really any issue with this, exactly because of the fact that we're in the transitional year and it's the first event of the new setup, plus it's the first event after a massive off season, you know, where so many changes happen. So I would much rather they got it right and we're a little bit late on some of those things, rather than just locking in something that will just create the worst first tournaments of the season, you know. So I think it's important that we get some good wild cards in, so that, you know, some of these teams that changed cores aren't going to be just hamstrung by the fact that the rules aren't really in their favor too much, because like obviously these teams should be realistically a top 30-ish team, you know, to get the invite to the bounty.
Sorry, I cut you off before, Prof. Where were you going with it?
I was just looking at the roster composition. I think the question marks are obviously Snappy. I think the Shu Snappy combination is nice because I think he has there like a soldier to support them in like everything, and essentially he is pretty a selfless player on the server, but also like a pretty experienced player, I would say.
Yeah.
So he has like a solid like 1-2 that he can work off of. Like, this is probably a guy I don't need to worry about too much, because the other three I think need a lot of love and attention in different ways. Like Wrinkle has shown potential, but also not really consistency in any way during his time in NIP. And we also know he came for a kind of a big price tag, so there's a lot of expectations from him, even though he's kind of a new player to this level. And then you have two riflers coming in that literally just played in the Portuguese scene, coming in an international lineup. So like changing language, always difficult. And also, I would say, even though Saw was much better than NIP last year, I think the expectations are different. Like the expectations are higher now that they're in this lineup than it was in Saw. So like
the name value,
the name value of NIP, and even funny as that sounds, the name value of NIP and the scrutiny that they have is going to put them under the on the radar of everyone, and also like in the spotlight to perform. I think those are the three players Snappy and Exist together need to worry about, like how well are these guys going to perform in like a different environment to some degree, especially for the Portuguese guys.
I'm not too worried about the Snappy combination, sorry, just because of,
you're right.
You know, he's done it before, right? So he's got the first iteration of Ents, you know, that he basically brought forward. He brought all the way to the top 5, right? And that was also players that, of course, there was some talent in Spinks. We knew that, but we didn't really expect him to be able to hit the level that he did with at some point, you know, at the end of that tenure, or not even end of that tenure, it was like end of 22 or first half of 22. I don't remember how it went exactly. That he had some big performances on the tier 1 scene. Now we actually do have a couple of players who have shown that they can do it, because they did it in Cologne, right? And they did it even under pretty big pressure there. So I think that there's there's a lot
potential,
there.
for sure.
There's a lot there for Snappy to work with, and the same with Wrinkle. You know, like is Alex going to be as capable as Snappy as getting the most out of Wrinkle, especially the way that he is so in your face and he's trying to make plays all the time and all that stuff. When he gets the opportunity, I think Snappy is good at that. Snappy is good at balancing out his pieces, kind of almost like a budget karrigan to some degree. You know, he will figure out a way to make this lineup work, I think, and I'm sure that if he was the first one to commit, he probably played a big part in trying to build it as well, as same way he did it with Ents those, whatever it is, 3 years ago now.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes. The first time I've been excited about NIP in a while, because I think that just the roster, you don't even have to look at the name. There's and I think it's based on that snappy factor you're just talking about. So cool to see what happens, but a bit of a shame for some of the Swedes like Rez and Isaac. Isaac's time, he probably wishes he stayed with Gamer Legion. Missed him, got that promotion up right from the academy. Max, who knows, you know, that guy's on and off the roster all the time. So look, the Swedish talent. Yeah,
just last thing I wanted to say is like they're getting a lot of shit for like making this change, and then even some I don't not a lot
Swedish
of
community,
Swedish community, and also just like the IGL part where they changed a lot of IGLs in like a year and a half, like 3 IGLs. Not a lot of shit, but some scrutiny. But I think realistically, this is the first time that they actually started from scratch. Like they have literally been changing the 2 players like every 2-3 months, but they didn't really like start from scratch. So this is the first time that they're really doing it. They're just keeping Wrinkle in a completely international lineup and exist. So I think this is different to what they have been doing for the last 2 years. And it only happened probably because of the opportunities on the market, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, the reason
reunited with Shush.
Yeah, right, from Heroic. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I think the key part for me is that assuming Wrinkle, like Snappy can get a little bit more out of Wrinkle, I actually have a hard time kind of finding any holes in this team. It's going to be hard to find weaknesses, because before in NIP we kind of struggled with saying where's the firepower coming from, as well as there was a kind of a bad floor of that team. You know, there was always going to be a couple of players who we weren't sure if they're going to perform or not. I think here you can be pretty damn sure that cxzi is going to have those peaks that we saw from him when he was in Saw. Ausdos also had that, right? Shush, we know he's super dependent as an anchor. I mean, historically one of the best we've had. Of course, Snappy individually had issues to keep up that form that we saw from him at the end of I almost say 1.6.
1.6.
I don't know how I almost say 1.6. At the end of Global Offensive. And then for me, it's more about if he can get more out of Wrinkle, because that's obviously going to be a big win condition for this NIP. But other than that, I mean, where do you go where you can find a hole in this team? You know, it seems pretty strong from a floor perspective.
Well, this is perfect. You've just set us up very nicely there, Striker, for our What Are the Odds. This is our first sponsored segment of the evening, brought to everybody by 1xBet. Of the year. Yes, indeed. Now let's whack this one up on the screen. This is one that, again, is going to have, I guess it's probably going to be more like a 5-month lead time. Hopefully Lucas is ready. He rocked up a little bit
shorter,
later.
so he can make it shorter somehow with magic.
Fucking hell. Well,
that's not a problem I usually have, but it is what it is. While we're filling this, yeah?
He thinks he saved it.
Okay, let's see.
Let's see if he saved it. The magic now. Drum roll, please. Yep, that's the graphic. What are the? Yeah, here we go. Nip get enough VRS points for the MRQ. Okay, so yeah, that's essentially what I wrote. What I wrote was just so those people can see what Lucas was working with. What are the odds NIP don't accumulate enough VRS points for the MRQ? So we're going to run with the slightly different. We'll go the other way of it, but regardless, for those people who don't know what the new acronym of MRQ stands for, that's Major Regional Qualifiers. Yes. Is that correct? Okay, cool. I can read. We'll get into that a little bit later. But essentially, the reason for this is it's a whole new roster. They're going to, as discussed, have to potentially hope that they. You said they can get wildcard, or they could potentially get wildcard status.
The thing is, they could defend it. Like if Blast opts to go for this wildcard anyway, they can probably defend it, and worst case, they can check with Valve if they could consider that tournament a tier 1. You know, but the way that I was looking at it when I was considering whether they could get that bounty invite or not was there was a 7th ranked team or even 6th ranked team as in the global standings at the ESL Challenger, which was Eternal Fire. So that is technically impossible under the new rules, because if you're tier 2, you're inviting from 9th and up. So in theory, this event wouldn't have been able to be tier 2 under the new rules. So you could probably make the argument that it was tier 1. So you can defend it.
Okay.
Blast probably, I would imagine, will try to, and we'll figure it out with Valve if that's reasonable defense for the wildcard invites. But yeah, that's how I'm looking at it.
Okay, I feel like they're getting invited based on what we're hearing.
Yeah, I don't know if they actually are. I haven't heard it, but I just know that there have been conversations about it.
Well, let's like, this is the thing, because right now we're essentially trying to see the future, right? If they don't get it, then they're going to have to play through some of the different qualifiers, then qualify to the events and rack up points that way, or play in smaller events. But regardless, the point of this is that they would need to be top 26 in Europe by the VRS to get qualification for the MRQ, which we don't know. Those, like I said, we'll talk about a little bit more later, but they can be played online or LAN. We don't know what Blast are going to be doing with it just yet, because this is still pretty recent information that's got changed on the GitHub. So with that in mind, right, do we think that this team, this is the thing, you're going to have to make your own predictions here, gentlemen. Do you think that they're either going to get fortunate enough with wildcards or have enough in the tank? Because we know how difficult it can be in online qualifiers. And a lot of the qualifiers for these events, I think all of the qualifiers for these events, other than the ones who are playing the semantics game, are online, right? So do we think that this roster has enough potential to be top 26 in Europe by the VRS come... we're going to say 2 months before the major, and the major is going to start in
April-ish, start of April somewhere.
Yeah, and that's speculation as well. So this is all up in the air.
I'll put some more context into this just to show people who are around the top 26 at the moment. So as you go down, I mean, we have the Imperial and Navi, like the female teams there, but it's a little bit lower down, 21 ANS, 22 Nexus, 23 9 Pandas, 24 Eclot, 25 Passion UA, and that's obviously after the major run that they've had. So like some decent points probably came from that. 26 B8, 27 Partisan, 28 the new, I guess will eventually be the new Bad Boom, but we'll see if even they keep the core. Yeah. But yeah, those are the sort of teams that we're looking to, like that they're looking to outperform.
Is below that. Falcons is below that. Cloud9 is dead, I guess.
Yeah, I'd just like to show people what the type of teams around there are.
Okay.
I think it's kind of on the edge for me. I'm not like, it's not like 100% yes, 100% no. I think it's on the edge. I think it's not going to be easy. I think I'm going to give it a 45%. I think it's 45.
45%.
I think 45. I'm leaning towards it's not going to happen. 45% that they get it.
Okay, so that's in line with what we have on screen right now. Okay,
No.
Interesting. Because there's so many variables that come into play of if they even get the opportunity to try and compete, right? And sure, the fortunate one of the olive branch for the wild card is the biggest and best that they could possibly hope for. Then other than that, it's going to need to be qualification, and they're going up against teams that are going to be more, they're starting from scratch, right? They're starting from zero. So you wonder if the organizational expectation is to qualify for the major. I'm sure that's probably the goal. Like, you're in the office, everyone's coming up. What's the goal? The goal is to qualify for at least the MRQ, right? That would probably be the what you'd want to set for yourself. But in terms of if that's realistically achievable, I think there's a few more factors that are going to get in their way. So I think the 45 seems pretty safe. The people at home have gone with 68%. So we got some NIP believers, some NIP Magic Man in the chat. What do you reckon, Striker?
I was kind of hedging towards yes, but now that I'm thinking about it more, it's going to be pretty fucking difficult. It's not even just about the time, but it's just, let's say they do get that wildcard invite to Bounty, right? And the way that works is you pick your opponents and you pick from the 17th down to the 32nd. They're going to be somewhere at the bottom of that seating, which means they're going to be left with a fucking Spirit or something to play.
Aren't they the lowest rank because they're wildcard?
Yeah, but
therefore
that's what I'm saying.
They pick first, no?
No. It starts
teams
from
will be first 17, 18, 19, 20,
okay.
right? It's
so
the lowest.
There will literally be the last. There will be one of the last two teams to pick, assuming there's two wild cards, and so they're going to be left with a Spirit, the G2, whatever that everybody else will leave out there, or Vitality, something like that, that they're going to play in the first round, which, as much as
do they
it's
establish
possible
ELO by just playing though?
What, sorry?
Do they establish ELO by just playing?
What do you mean? Well, I'm not sure what you mean.
Or
Do they
have
get
to win?
points? Do they get points? Do
Well,
they
have to
progress?
get. The problem is they have to play 10 matches to even get ranked for the first of all. So, I mean, they can
Fucking
get
hell.
there pretty
45
quick.
seems a bit high now, Prof.
The thing is, they can get there by playing a lot of the CCT stuff and all that. Like, there's going to be a bunch of the online stuff that they can play, so they will get to the requirement of 10 matches pretty quickly, I would imagine, assuming that some of these online tournaments will have a like a wild card, because that's obviously going to be the biggest problem, just like getting into that requirement. Otherwise, it's not that big of an issue, but just having enough to play that actually matters, because a lot of this online stuff doesn't matter that much compared to all the LAN results that are going to be happening. And I was even looking at the Sky Esports Zvonimir tournament that's like in February, which is another like opportunity for some of these smaller teams to play. That's a tier 2 that's going to be LAN, but they have invites based on global standings, both in the main tournament and into the closed qualifier. So there's no wildcard for them there. It just seems like it's all going to have to be online, and so I'm fairly low, because the qualifiers that they will get to play, which is going to be somewhere like beginning of February for Dallas and all these tournaments, are going to be for tournaments that happen too late after the lock of the invites. So with all of this in mind, I would go pretty low. I would go like 25 even.
Fuck yeah, well that's the thing, right? That's because we are assuming the cutoff date for the major or those rankings. We could be wrong. And
it's
also
gonna be early though. Like it will have to be more than 1 month. Like assuming that Valve will actually take their own rules seriously and set it so that you have to take it from the first of the month. It cannot be the 1st of May, like first ranking of May, because that's only like 3 weeks for you to decide to determine visas and all this stuff. It's not enough time for all these teams to get visas to the US. So I think it has to be 2 months. Realistically, it has to be at least the beginning of April.
2 months is such a long time.
I mean, of course, but like it's with all these tournaments, you know that it just has to happen that way, and it just sucks for these new teams, right? Because they're just not going to get enough time to work their way up, and they're going to have to work for the second season more than the first.
Yeah. Okay. Well, with all of this, I'm just look. I want to say I like the roster. I just don't think there's enough runway. So I'm going to go as pessimistic as Striker here. I'll go 30%. So I'll go a little bit more, but otherwise, we're doomers today. So let's find out what the total is. And you guys at home on Twitter/X, whatever the fuck you want to call it, I don't care. And Instagram, there'll be some polls. You guys get to vote, and your votes will determine what the general populace is saying. And then if you are correct with your selection, it'll go into a pool of money where we get to give away some lovely things to you, our viewers. That is, What Are the Odds, brought to you by 1xBet. Beautiful.
Talking about that, just to add in, also for our social media guys at home, we should organize the giveaway next week when we're back from Belgrade, to give away the 1,000 or whatever euros of skins when we come back from last season. That's just something that's a mental note out here. All right. Be putting it out.
So be here next week. How does it work? Are we giving it to people in the chat? What are we doing exactly?
Well, we can do whatever you want.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's just say be here next week. We don't have a time, a day, or a place just yet. But yeah, come on by. You might be able to win some skins. All right. Let's keep jumping forward. We're going to keep talking about some of these roster rumblings. Jota, who was, we were talking about Sangal before. He was also in the academy roster for Eternal Fire for a period of time. He's getting the call up to the main team to replace Calyx. And I think the most exciting thing with all of this is the potential of the kid. It just feels like it's adding more firepower to Eternal Fire, which in my opinion, I think is unfortunately, well, maybe, I don't know why I'm saying unfortunately necessary. I think Wakadia is still a little bit hit and miss. I think he has a really good ceiling, but he's not consistent on all the maps and he doesn't always deliver. And I don't think you're gonna get just careful how I say this. Xantares and Woxic are good. Don't get me wrong. I think they're very good players, but they're aging. So I think this is also a really good one for the future of Eternal Fire going forward. Like if they find that Jota and Wakadia are really good players, and they're able to hold on to them, I don't know how long we're going to get out of Xantares and Woxic, but definitely a couple more years. But this is one that feels like it's good for the future as well. It also brings the average age of the team down a bit too. So I'm happy with this change. I don't know what else there is to really say about this one. This one seems pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, I mean, same. Like, it just made sense. It's like you have this player, for all we know, he was just loaned out to Sangal. So you have this player available. You have some issues with consistency, and I do think firepower to some degree. I mean, obviously not if like Woxic and Xantares are in their peak form, but that can't really be happening all the time, especially for Woxic. I think Xantares pretty consistent, even though he was also missing in some key games and key moments. So like adding a 22-year-old player that has like insane stats essentially just makes sense. Like, why not go for it? Even if he's not Calyx, maybe he doesn't have all the experience, maybe the communication isn't there fully, you know, you don't have even the cohesion between him and Major and Woxic, these guys, and Xantares. They played together for so long that there's going to be some intangibles that are going to go missing, but especially in CS2, we probably will make that up with just a raw, talented player. So I'm excited to see where it's going. And I think the best thing about it, like last year for Eternal Fire, I think some of them put it out also, like tweeting about it and in our top 20s and Xantares as well. Like this was their best year ever for Turkish Counter-Strike. Like they made major playoffs. Xantares made top 20. But it ended kind of badly, and I think they needed something to kind of give them, a fresh breath of air or a second wind of this roster. Because if they didn't have like a talented player like this coming in, I feel like you could get a bit doom and gloom and see like, okay, we managed to do this, but what's next? Like this is the plateau, not even plateau. This is like the peak of what we can accomplish. So I think they needed like an injection of something to have something to look forward to for 2025.
Strike, you have anything you want to add?
No, not particularly. Just kind of happy for them to not get stuck in their ways and trying to upgrade and get ahead of the curve rather than, sit on their laurels and stay with the same team just for the sake of staying loyal.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, not much to say there, but another one that I'm excited to see play. All right, let's jump into a Fnatic change. Been pretty critical of Fnatic in recent history, and I guess the results speak to that. There's really another one of these legacy orgs, legendary names that have let the team go down the gurgler. The change that is apparently heading over there is Body out as the in-game leader, and they're going to bring in Fear from Passion UA to join Mattis, Blame F, Nork, and Crims. I think I really liked the energy that Fear brought, right? When we saw him playing with Passion, and obviously that was playing with his countrymen and the first major and all of those factors that played into it. And so I'm not like negging on him or anything. He's just going to have a tough task because he's playing with a couple of established players who have their own approach to the game, whereas the way that Passion were playing was fundamental Counter-Strike. So I'm curious if he's going to be able to run the ball the way that he wants to within that team. And then my next question is that enough for Fnatic? Do they need another change? Is there other names that need to potentially be looked at being changed? Because there's a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of free agents, but there's a lot of players who are available in one way or another. They're either on the bench or they're a free agent or they're in the breeze. So what do you guys make of this Fnatic situation?
I was kind of comparing what happened to an IP in this offseason and what Fnatic are doing, and I'm like, why can't you be more like that? Because it's just like why are we like, why not be moving a little bit further? Because I don't know if a change of in-game leaders is going to do it for this team. I mean, they obviously have some talent. I think Blamef and Mattis are a pretty good kind of place to start, right? But
yes, agreed.
Do you have enough out of everything else for you to actually break through and start having some deep results? It feels like it's just missing something, right? It's getting a bit old as well in terms of age. So not super hyped about this, to be honest, because it feels like it's just sitting on what you've already had, just changing any game leader, and that's always a bit awkward because you have an in-game leader who's just going to come in and change everything because he wants to call by his style, right? And then you're just blowing everything up just for one guy, right? And so it feels like it needed to be a bit more than that. We don't know if it's not, by the way, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can both look at like two players that are question marks for me is like crimz and Knock, definitely in different ways. And obviously crimz is a legend of the game and all of these things. But I think at the start of the transfer period, when you heard like plus fear, I was like, oh, this is pretty good. But then when you see what everyone else is doing, I feel like people are doing a lot more. And that may leave Fnatic, like they might be better, but not by enough because other people improved more essentially or did bigger moves. Maybe they're not instantly going to be better because, you know, if you change 4 players, it's going to take some time to actually be good. But, you know, they're building towards, you know, if they do qualify for the major, they're probably going to eclipse Fnatic by that point, you know. So that's where I see issues. Do we know about Knock's contract? Because it says on HLTV
it's March.
March 2025. So yeah, is this
that's a loan from Bleed, and then they have an option to buy out after that. So until March,
I can't believe we're loaning anything from Bleed. How do we even how is this happening? How
that was kind of a funny situation because, you know, with all the Bleed issues, there was even an argument to make that they never bought Knockout from Apex in the first place, you know. So is Apex technically is Knock technically an Apex player? So should they have loaned him out of Apex, you know, instead of Bleed, just giving Bleed free money for nothing? That's kind of hilarious to me. But it doesn't seem like that's actually coming out of anything.
Can I just ask this? Where are Passion in the VRS? I should just look myself. It's just I'm on a fucking laptop, so it's.
I said their name in that run of teams I was talking about. It was like 20 to 30-ish, 25.
Like if you're Fnatic though, like you get Fear and you get Jambo, and then you just take one of the riflers. Like hopefully they speak decent English. I don't know. I'm sorry if like maybe you're a Jacasmo, right?
I mean, Fnatic are 7 spots lower, so I don't think you're going to improve your stance too much.
Yeah, but like at least you got a core of a team there that we're talking about making roster changes, right? Like Jambo was pretty exciting, and let's say you get Jacasmo in there or Zero Fix. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
I mean, if it was Fear and Jambo for Body and Knock, that would have been we'd go somewhere from that because I mean, crimz still serviceable in the roles that he's playing. I think it's just, you know, maybe eventually you would upgrade him as well, but at least you're going somewhere.
Don't hate that. I don't hate that move, to be honest. I don't hate that move.
Yeah. All right.
Just want to say Knock really has been going on a downward trend in the last year or so. Like ever since Apex, like that Apex form has not been rediscovered in further teams, unfortunately.
Yeah. There's quite a few players who find themselves in that similar situation, which is, you know, it's tough. You got to wonder what the secret sauce was, what the recipe to the success of the time, and then you look and it's probably like the team overall and what, you know, they're allowed, not as individuals or, there's a lot that goes into it. But all right, that brings us to our next little portion. This is going to be pretty quick, guys, because I don't think we're going to have a lot to really sink our teeth into, but I kind of just want to hit these beats. And then if there is anything that anybody has and they want to invest some time talking about it, then let's do it. Maybe you've heard some things in the backlines. Maybe you got a strong opinion about this. So these are just some of the changes that are either rumored to happen or have happened in recent times with, I don't want to call them smaller teams because I don't think they're all smaller teams, but the changes are maybe not the most exciting, but they're still changes. So the regali addition,
they are indeed changes. Yes,
they are changes. The regali addition to FlyQuest in place of Alistair. I think, you know, that is a position that needed to be upgraded, but whether or not regali is the guy for that, I don't know. I think, you know, you're going to say it's going to be better. That's my initial thoughts. But I also then think, okay, what does that mean for FlyQuest? Does that mean they're going to spend a lot more time overseas? Because I don't imagine regali is going to move to Australia. That would be ridiculous. So you're going to see them a lot more time in Europe. Is this? Then I also have the next question. Is this an organizational move, right? Is this from Papa Smitty and the org, or is this the team who have said, hey, let's make this change? Because that's the next thing that comes to my mind with this one right here, because they wanted to stay together, this FlyQuest roster. They were given the green light by FlyQuest to stay together for the year that they were signed, which was 2024. And then, so this could have potentially come from the org, this type of a change. So does anybody look at this as like, think this would be the difference maker for them?
It kind of feels like they're getting European offer for the sake of getting a European offer, to be honest, because
That's what I thought
mean,
too,
everything that we've seen from regali since he got some opportunities hasn't been super convincing. So is he really going to be that much better than Alistar that for you to make this move? Like it really doesn't feel like it's going to change anything at all. I mean, I could be wrong, but it seems, yeah, nothing from what we've seen so far. I would imagine not.
That's what I'm thinking.
He was already on the bench to OG, right? And then Entropic, I think, I don't know if they let him go. What happened?
I'm trying to go like through his history because like I have the same like memory of him as someone coming onto the scene, pretty exciting, and then kind of just disappearing in these mid-tier teams, aka OG, and then now Entropic. Like, and looking at his like last year stats against top 30. 103, like nothing really. It's been a while since I've been like impressed or even seen this guy in any relevant tournaments.
There was like that Dallas where he first stood in for OG before he actually joined them, right? And that was like the tournament was like, okay, this guy, that's the Copenhagen Flames regali that people were saying maybe he could make it further up to the top, right? But then since then he's never really replicated that. So it's just kind of hard to see whether he has that next level or not.
Yeah, no, not too crazy about it, but like Alistar was struggling in certain times, like being very poor. So I guess it's worth a shot.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It is definitely worth a change, but I kind of had the same sentiment as Striker there. It just feels like they're changing for the sake of it. But at the same time, if they're not willing to spend big money, then who are you even going to get? Like, I can't imagine how much trying to buy somebody like Slend from Gamer Legion would cost or something like that has a bit more excitement around them.
And he's never going to, I mean, he would not leave Gamer Legion. And that's the problem. Like, you're in a position where nobody wants to join you. That's the issue, right?
It's a good point too. That is a very good point. Yeah, it's not like yeah, that's true. Okay, let's jump into the next one here. Complexity with cxzi and nicx. I'm going to be honest. I've seen a bit of cxzi over the years, right? Like you've seen his games and whatnot. But this nicx character, I've never heard of him. And it's not like I'm watching a lot of North American Counter-Strike, so I apologize. But have you guys had this guy on your radar? Have you heard anything about him?
Absolutely not. He doesn't even have a picture on HLTV.
That's
where he is. He obviously has been playing. I'm just like looking a bit through the results. He's been playing for a while now, but literally have not heard this name.
I have, but it's just more from randomly stumbling upon so many matches than anything else. So he was like trying to announce it for a while, but that was about it.
I guess the question is, right, it's less about being like, oh, we don't know who this guy is, but it's more about, do we like the strategy that Complexity have employed here? Or is it, well, Complexity now just literally fall into the rest of the dregs of North America, then now should be considered on the same level as an NRG or a Nouns, right? Because previously they were a team that was, budding to be at the big boy table, and they got a chair. It wasn't a permanent chair, but they had a chair every now and again. And now they have this team. So they still have Halzerk, JT, Grim, but then they bring in these two individuals. What do we think overall for Complexity here? Is it going to be a long, cold year?
I think this is pretty much a budget move, if I'm completely honest. Like we know
they don't have any money, right?
They're not. Yeah, I mean, I think what happened last year is like Elige was keeping them in that discussion, and like start of CS2 literally in grand final, fucking IM Sydney. Like these are things that are no way possible with this roster. That's just pure facts. So I think for them, they're literally. I would say, I think this is worse than M80. I think they'll do worse than M80 in the year coming.
I think that's a reasonable thing to say, though.
Yeah.
I think that's a reasonable thing to say. I don't think that's a crazy statement to make.
It seems like they will revert to the pre-Elige period where, like, of course they had a good result here and there, right? But overall, they ended up before they got in Elige, they ended up being somewhere like on the outskirts of the top 30 even, and that was the addition that actually propped them up again, right? So it just seems like that's kind of the place that they're going to stay at. And I mean, that's probably, I don't even think that they have so much higher expectations at the moment with the sort of moves that they're making, right? We were talking about this, half a year.
But then how long do you keep someone like Halzerk then?
I mean, it depends on how much you pay him, I guess.
Well, pretty much, yeah. I don't think he has some crazy contract. I mean, he was already in a place where if they had an upgrade,
FlyQuest.
there you go.
No, but
just have it be Mr. Worldwide. I can't fucking say it.
Pitbull. So Chad, what do you think? You're the resident NA hater, so give us some juice.
I don't hate NA. I love New Jersey.
What?
I love the drones in New Jersey, man. No, the complexity situation, I don't know. For me, they're in the mud now. They're in the mud with everybody else. So what it might lead to is in the future when if all of the North American teams, we're not including Liquid in this conversation, don't perform very well, it might get to a point where then they can start trading players within each other, or the org that has the most money can actually get the best North American players all on the same roster, because they're going to be quite fractured at the moment, right? Like for me, I'd want Lake, I'd want Rec, I'd want Grim. Obviously JT and Halzerk aren't NA, so I could include JT at this point as just honorary, right? But we could start to build a roster. I think those three would be nice. And then where are we going to go from there? There's definitely the AWPA always seems to be a bit of an issue. So I guess
AWP and IGL are just like import for all of them.
Well, let's say if Complexity could have gotten Rec and Swish, not Rec and Swish, Rec and Lake, that would have been much more exciting for me. Obviously, that's not possible. They don't have the money to be able to do that. Yeah. But yeah, like that'd be pretty cool. I would like that Complexity roster. Be like, okay, yeah, sure, you lose a Liege, but I think that Lake has some good potential to grow. I think Rec is a good player at in those anchor positions. I like watching Rec actually. I think I slept on him for a while, but then watching him a lot at Pro League and stuff, I was like, yeah, this guy fucks. So, but that's not where they are. So if it leads to that in the future and we get to see these teams kind of come together, maybe M80 get to buy Grim, right? Like that, you never know. Like, but for Complexity, this isn't a good sign.
No, I mean, it's obviously good for NA and for them to have another place, to be able to improve towards, for them to actually work towards. But overall, in the grand scheme of things in the international scene, yeah, I'm not expecting it to make big waves.
Well, people in chat obviously mentioning Stan and JBA as well from Wildcard, right?
Yeah.
So there are names, but they're just all not together right now. So there's still hope, but yeah, for the future. All right, let's jump into the legacy changes. So Barton and nicx are the ones who have been tossed aside or rumored to be so. Nissim and Lux are the two individuals to be added to the roster. And the rumor that I was reading, or maybe it was in the article, or maybe it was in a thread, I don't know, was that Lux was going to be the guy taking over the in-game leadership roles. And this legacy roster, they're mainly based in North America, right? Like they don't really compete in. So they're still doing it old school, like we're talking 2015, 2016 levels of Brazilian infiltrating North American Counter-Strike. And the two players on that roster, Lato and Dumao, are pretty exciting pieces within themselves, right? So I'm not sure how these.
You still think they're exciting after all this time?
Yeah.
I think they were exciting like 3 years ago when they had like Taco and Coldzera or whatever. But now
it's cooled
I'm just
a bit, hasn't it?
Yeah, I'm not really excited by them at all. Like it's more the Pain and the Pain kids and the MIBR kids that are coming in between or have been around but are just better in my opinion now, that are exciting but not really the legacy team.
But you wonder like if this change gives them the shot in the leg, because like nicx was there doing the in-game leadership for a little period of time, right? Like not a little bit, but a decent period of time. I wonder why Lux was no longer on Pain, because I thought he was pretty handy. Like I the rumor goes that Davideus is meant to be joining that Pain roster, right? And he was pretty damn good. I thought he had some impact back at the majors. So
I feel like that's a Pain upgrade then, and then he found the next spot. That's what makes sense to me. But maybe not. Who knows?
I don't know. Lux was pretty good in Pain, so I don't know if that's necessarily what happened. But I don't know exactly.
Personal.
I'm not super down with the Brazilian scene to understand
that's
what
why
happened
we're flying
there, really.
through these boys. Don't feel the need that we spend too long on these. Like we're just touching on them. That's what we just said. Davideus trying to Pain. Another North American change. So this is nouns. They've added a new core. So peeping, cryptic, and infinite. Nothing really exciting to say there either. Just a headline. Just want to make sure that North America feels like they're being represented. OG adding spooke. That's another one. It's like, okay, like finally, as of I reckon a year and a bit ago, people started actually realizing that OG had been shit for the entire time in Counter-Strike. And now everybody just knows. I was banging that drum for years, and you all just thought Dota good must mean Counter-Strike good. Sorry, guys. No good. All right. Perfect. Well, that right there is going to be the rapid impressions. There was one more that came out. It was Ryu and Gizmi getting added to the Monty starting roster again, but they already did some either stand-in or something along those lines with Monty
Temporary
before.
something,
Yeah, so we see him again. So apparently they like the look of those two. So we'll see. Gizmi's going to be doing the in-game leading. So we'll see what happens there.
Boros left, no, or something, or am I crazy? Like they had him for, they had those two for a moment. Maybe that was after, I don't remember.
Also,
anyway.
Koi disbanded. Pretty much.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm glad. No, well, okay. Oh, I could be careful. I don't want to see like I'm glad that people lose their jobs or whatever. But that roster fucking sucked. Like, and if I'm Movistar is a big company, right? Like, that's a proper company. I want to be. I know it's a name brand sponsor of a
telecom, whatever.
Yeah, but like sponsor a good team then. Like, and I think that's kind of
OG aren't happy about the rapid impressions.
So, OG here.
No, I mean, I guess they were because they noticed that it was very rapid indeed.
Well, you know, what are we going to say?
More to work with, you know.
What are we going to say?
I mean, they said
interesting
earlier,
younger names on OG. There you go.
Yeah. They said earlier their objective of the year is to make it out of rapid impressions.
Nice. Okay. Well, no, there are. Look, to be honest, I don't know how I feel. Oh, Fiku's still on the team. Yeah. Anyway, that's that. Lucas, run an ad break. We'll be back.
Changed quickly. Clear. Shoot it.
The world is changing, but one thing remains the same. Victories with 1xbet.
Sell in-game items at the best prices in just a couple of clicks. We are the biggest instant sell service for in-game items like Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, and Rust. Easy selling process and instant withdrawal of funds to the most popular payment methods. More than 140,000 deals and 50,000 active sellers every month. Use promo code HLTV5 and get a 5% bonus on the sale of your skins. Skin Place. Sell items now.
Since the dawn of CSGO, we have been there. Observers of all that competition can reveal. Elation, fear, triumph, and heartache reach out from every frame. From the small studios and conference rooms to the epic arenas, the feeling is still the same. We live and breathe this game. This was CSGO Through the Lens. Buy now at hltv.org/shop.
Right, back for the break. Thanks for sticking with us. We're going to get into more of the show. What were you eating, Striker? Was that watermelon?
Jelly.
No, it's a cheesecake?
Nope, it was jelly.
No, it's like a jelly type thing.
Oh, okay. I thought it was watermelon.
All
right.
What's inside?
It's
Water
kind of.
and...
I mean, it's just Jello. I mean, that. What do you want me to say?
Wait, it's a jelly type thing. So I thought there.
I mean,
more
it's
to
like
it.
a combination of three different things of it.
All right, we'll save Striker here. We'll get into who wants to be a Skinionaire. Now, we have someone who always checks to say that we've misspelt Skinionaire. Have I misspelt Skinionaire again?
Yes. This is completely bad.
No, there's an I too little.
Skinionaire.
So I think
too little.
We also made the word up, so we can write it however we want.
But well, hold up a second, because I think we're referencing two different things. So, Striker, where are you saying it's spelled correctly or incorrectly?
I mean, right in front of my face, it's spelled incorrectly.
So in the middle of the screen,
And
because I
and
also
at the bottom
believe.
as well. Yeah, and at the bottom too.
Lucas just changed that. I had it spelled correctly. Now, this is how I had it spelled.
There we go.
That's how it should be spelled.
That's right.
So it's wrong in the middle of the screen.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I think it has been for a long time too, because it's like,
That's good though. So just so I know that I'm either slightly crazy or we already knew that. Anyway, I'm glad that we got to the bottom of that one. We're stuck in jelly right now, but we'll fix it. Okay, everybody, and you've already started. Type skin place in chat right now. That's your raffle ticket to enter the draw. We're going to have 5 questions, multiple choice. Striker and Prof can take this one on again with the two of them, given the gambit a crack.
is this easy again?
The questions are easier than last week, I promise.
Okay.
They do get harder, but we start very easy.
Right.
Are the two of you ready to rumble?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Question number 1. What does VRS stand for? Valve ranking system, Valve rigorous sifting, Valve regional standings.
Honestly, this one is
Standings.
this is regional standings, right? Because I saw people in chat before someone asked, and they said everyone replied Valve ranking system,
Yeah,
but I don't
a
think
lot
it
of
is.
people get it wrong, but it's regional standings. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, this is very important, everybody. We're going to be locking in C, Valve regional standings, and I need all of you to make sure you get this right for the rest of the time, because we're going to lock it in. The correct answer is Valve regional standings. Now, we've got 2 ways we can go about this. We can either petition to Valve to get them to change it to Valve ranking system, or we can all just get up with the program and call it Valve regional standings. So it's up to us.
What I have a problem with the regional standings one, because there's also a global one, but you will say global VRS, which is global Valve regional standings, which doesn't make any sense either. So, yeah. That hires my case.
Well, it's Valve naming's never really been Valve strong suit.
No, it's like stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and all that.
Yeah.
Like I think they realized maybe elimination and opening wasn't the best idea, so they were like, okay, let's just go with numbers instead.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into question number 2. 1 from 1 so far. Which TO is hosting the first Tier 1 event of the season? Blast, ESL, or PGL?
This is Blast Bounty.
There you go.
Are you sure?
What? He's fucking trolling me. He's fucking trolling me. It's
checking.
Blast. It's Blast.
Asking an A, Blast. Correct answer is Blast. Bang on. Blast Bounty going to be starting in a week and a bit's time.
Weekish.
All right. Wanted to ask you a question about that, Striker. The seeding that you discussed before is from 17 to 32 picking the opponents. Do you know when they're going to pick the opponents? It's online, so obviously it's not as
It was supposed to be on Monday.
this Monday.
I mean today?
No, next Monday.
In a week. Okay,
Next
so the day before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And
All right.
from my understanding, like the higher seeds have their schedule predetermined. And then based on who you pick,
picks who.
it puts you in that schedule.
But do you know, as the lower seed, do you know which time of the day you're going to be playing at as well? Is that something that's going to play into your decision? It's like,
I think,
we don't want to play at 10 a.m.
They should. I mean, I've been talking to a lot of players and teams, obviously, because like around the awards and everything. And I find it interesting that seems like I knew more than a lot of people did, which I feel like they should know. Like it's more their job than mine to know, but I don't know if it wasn't communicated or it was like, people on break taking it easy, but it seems like all of these things were decided like a month ago. And so it was kind of set for Blast.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, I told someone on the forums that I would ask the question. Now we've asked the question. Hopefully they're listening or they watch the VOD later. All right. Question number 3. We're doing well so far, lads. 2 from 2. Let's see if we can keep this ball rolling. What is the name of Blast incentive program? Is it A, the Blast Buddies, B, Frequent Flyers, or C, the Mile High Club?
As much as I'm sure that they'd love to be a part of the Mile High Club, it's Frequent Flyers.
We'll be locking in B, Frequent Flyers. The correct answer is Frequent Flyers.
Honestly,
I think
Blast
Buddies.
So
Yeah.
cool. And that
Just
little
rolls off the tongue.
And the little Blast TV guy, he's one of the Blast buddies. You're all hanging out, having a little beer on the riverside. Banger. I love that. Love that idea.
I think they should reconsider changing the name, or consider changing the name. Maybe not reconsider. All right, 3 from 3. Now, lads, it's going to get harder. It's going to get significantly harder.
Okay.
So this week, we're probably not giving away a $50 skin. Let's just say that much. All right, let's get into it. Question number 4. Between Blast, PGL, and ESL, how many Tier 1 events are in the first season, not including the major? Is it 6, 8, or 10?
Okay, let's get through it. Blast, Katowice, Cluj, EPL, Bucharest, Dallas, not including the major. What am I missing?
Kazakhstan?
Lisbon, Arrivals. That's 8 already.
Yeah. What about PGL? Do they have
Astana,
more?
9.
Astana, yeah.
So it has to be 10. I'm not missing one.
EPL?
I said that.
We said Katowice. We said Dallas.
Yep.
We said 3 from Blast.
Yep. I mean, I guess we're missing something because we got to 9, right?
Should be 10 then. Let's
go 10.
Locking in C10, and the correct answer is C10.
What's the one we missed? Do you know?
Spring. I am Spring.
Right. Of course.
I wanted to leak it. I want to
leak it so bad. Why haven't they said it yet?
Well,
I'm so mad at ESL at the moment as well. Anyway, like I just want to say it. I want to say it so
apparently
bad.
It's like a local deal announcement confirmation. Blah blah blah.
So exhausting.
Yeah, something stupid.
I thought there was actually a Reddit thread about this the other day. Did you see? People are calling out like, we should not allow ESL to break the rules like this. You need, and then it was like, you know, the rules that you need, what you need to put out, and one of the places, one of the things is location. It was like bolded. I was like, this is egregious. This is breaking the rules. And like to some degree, it is actually. Like I know all of the teams should know what this is.
Yeah, they know.
And like even the public kind of knows what it is, but it is kind of silly that it's not announced.
All right.
Yeah, anyway, we'll talk about it later. All right. Question number 5. The hardest yet. How much accumulated prize money is available across those events? 5 million, 7 million, or 10 million?
So PGL alone is 3.75. Katowice has 8 plus 4.75, and they have like 250 for the club one, I think. So that's 4. Blast Bounty is 500, so it's 4.5. Blast Lisbon is it also 5? And then Rivals is 1 million. So that's 1.5 million for Blast. That's what am I getting? 6 now? Yeah.
EPL.
6. EPL is I think it's somewhere around 1 million as well. So that's 7 already. What are we missing? Melbourne, Dallas. We didn't do it. That's more. So are we at 10 again? I think we already got past 7.
Yeah.
Depends on what you mean.
Now this one I feel there'll be some scrutinizing.
Depends what you mean, because
only
there's a club
prize money.
But there's club prize money and there's player prize money.
Only prize money that you have on the website for the event.
Okay, then 7. All
right, we're locking in P7.
Because total we would get closer to 10 if we did the club thing.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that later too. All right, so that's 5 from 5. You got them all right. That's $50 skin we're going to be giving away to one of our lucky viewers, thanks to Skin Place. That's who wants to be a Skinionaire, and some great deduction there. I'm happy with how we worked that out. So how did you feel with the questions this week, gentlemen?
Yeah, honestly, the event one would have been a lot harder if I hadn't just gone through like who's traveling where. So I literally had it all in my head from literally I decided it yesterday. So I knew the whole first part of the season pretty much by heart.
Okay, nice. That's good. That worked out nicely. Now, for those people who didn't get the theme, we're going to be talking about 2025, the season, some of the changes. Jabloy, Jabloye, have been following for 2 years. Congratulations, you're our lucky winner tonight. Our people will reach out to your people and we'll get you your $50 skin. Congratulations. All right. Great. That's perfect. Skinionaire done. And now we can get talking about the year ahead. So we spoke about this a little bit earlier, but we'll talk about the news that's come with this. So there was a change in the GitHub, which has let everybody know that the major is going to be 32 teams, which is going to, of course, mean that the major itself is going to be extended in terms of the amount of days. That isn't public yet. I know they teased it in their little trailer thing that Blast did for Austin a while ago, but in terms of official dates, we don't have anything yet. But we've spoken about this before. The major is going to essentially be, I want everybody to close their eyes at home, anywhere in the world where you're listening to this. Maybe you're watching, maybe you're listening, maybe it's on Spotify, wherever. You close your eyes. I want you to visualize this, right? So we're all in the olden times, and we're out there in a riverbank, and we're sifting. But we're going through now 3 layers of Swiss, and we're sifting through just time and time and time again until we get the gold. So that's what we're doing. We're sifting. We just went, why'd the screen go black? That scared me.
We're closing our eyes, I guess.
Okay, no, yeah, I guess. But essentially now it's going to be 3 stages of Swiss. So 16 teams into where 8 teams will qualify to play with 8 waiting. And then from that, the top 8 will go into the next with 8 waiting. And then we'll have one more Swiss stage where the top 8 from that will then qualify to the playoffs. And it'll just be the standard major playoff that everybody knows and loves. But the changes with this that I suppose are the more interesting ones, because we've been speculating about no RMRs, but they've replaced that with a thing called major regional qualification. Now over to Striker for more.
Sorry, what was the question? I got
no, just elaborate for everybody playing at home. If you got anything exciting about this, the MRQs, right? So these additions. This can be LAN or online, right? It's left open-ended for the TO to decide.
Yeah, that seems to be completely open. It's not even like based on any sort of conditions or anything like that. TOs can just decide whether they want to host it online or on LAN. That comes with a bit of a caveat, because if you don't host it on LAN, you probably have to split it into sub-regions. And I'm curious how that affects Asia, because in the rule book, they kind of implied like that's one of the examples of splitting into subregions would have been North America, South America, which is, I mean, fair enough. That's the most obvious split. But in Asia, I mean, you can't play Australia versus the rest of Asia or anywhere else. You know, if you play like whatever people from Kyrgyzstan or Middle East to play against people from China, like it's all going to be kind of an issue. So I would hope it's not online, but then it's also all dependent on the regional standings, which is also going to be kind of an issue in Asia. But then they're also giving some opportunity to supplement these with open qualifiers for the regions where it makes sense. So I would imagine that's probably what's going to happen with Asia again, if that's what we're going to do. So some kind of awkward solutions that we might have to get around depending on where TOs decide to host it. But all in all, I mean, it's kind of I would say it's kind of a return to the minor system, except a little bit bigger, because that's how it worked effectively previously, right? I mean, we had more requalifications rather than VR's invites, you know. So teams who made it to the top 8 were invited to the second stage of the major. Teams who made it to the top 16 were invited to the third stage of the first stage of the major. And then the other 8 teams in the first stage came from minors, you know, 2-2 and 2, and then the play-in or whatever. So this is kind of the same thing, except we're getting those 16 teams in the first stage from the separate minors, you know, 6 from Europe, 6 from Americas, and 4 from Asia. So that's kind of, it seems like we're kind of going back in time with that.
Yeah, I looked at it and I think that it's good because it's not all just up to the rankings. Obviously, the rankings play a big part, but as you said, there's some supplementation available with open qualifiers, especially for these regions that are going to have a tougher time. But you do worry that if a TO wants to, again, right, just follow the letter of the law of what Valve puts out there, then they can make things less than ideal, right? You would hope that they will want to operate for what it makes the best event, but sometimes the bottom line is going to get in the way of that.
Yeah.
We just kind of have to see how it shakes out, because
bottom line financially or logistically and stuff like that, you mean?
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, and that's the thing, because it is obviously the biggest of honors in our space to get the opportunity to host a major. But if you can, you know, not cut corners because you're following what Valve said, but if you do that to the letter of the law, it might, like, because essentially you got to think about it in 2 ways. One, okay, sure, maybe you save a bit of money or you save a bit of stress if you can do things in the cheaper way and get it done online, and you're able to like box these things up and make it work. But then you might actually get a worse event, right? If you have a LAN qualifier, then you can hopefully get the best teams there, and that's going to give you hopefully the best major possible, and that's what you're looking to really achieve.
Yeah, I mean, for me, sorry. For me, it's interesting. For me, it's kind of interesting that previously Valve kind of did a lot to make the majors have less of an impact on the calendar, especially, when this was 2018, 2019, when we had a lot of tournaments, and that's kind of the place that we're returning to, where we're going to have a lot of different tournaments, but the majors are actually getting even bigger, because up until now, I mean, I guess it's going to be kind of comparable to Shanghai overall, because we had these 2-week-long RMRs into over a 2-week-long major, so we had like over a month of major action effectively, with just a few days off in between. And this is kind of going to be the same, especially if the MRQs are going to be LAN. I would imagine the TOs will just want to kind of offset it like right just before the major, then have like a week off in between, similar like we had with RMRs leading into the Shanghai major, right? So we're going to have a 3-week major effectively. And then before that, we're going to have maybe not 3 week, but something like whatever, 16, 17 days or whatever. And then before that, we still have to make space for a 16-team qualifier in Europe, 16-team qualifier in America, and a 8-team qualifier in Asia, and so it's even more on top. At the moment, there's space for that in the calendar, and I think, effectively because that's what happened, so people made space for it in the calendar, but it's just kind of a lot to go through for just one major, effectively over a month of action for that, so it seems, I'm not sure I understand the logic behind that entirely.
I mean, my understanding is that they did want to make the major smaller, and they did, because the RMR was practically the major, and the RMRs don't exist. And what now exists, like the like major qualifiers, whatever they're called, MRQ, they should overlap with tier 1 events, because no tier 1 team should be in them. Like, that's essentially...
True. Well, that's not really the case, because it goes down to like 11th in Europe, which is, it could be top 16 and global.
Well, how many European teams are invited to the major?
It's 11 to 26.
To the MRQ, right?
Or the MRQ.
That's the thing. Like, we actually had a change. This is a bit of a tangent, but this change actually made it so that Europe kind of got screwed over, in a sense, because not screwed over, but like, hear me out, okay? Because we've had 14 teams in Shanghai, right? 14 out of the 24 teams were European. Before that, we had 17, I think, the major before in Copenhagen. This time, we're actually going to get into 16 out of 32, because they have top 10 teams. 10 teams they get invited straight, 6 to the third stage, 4 to the second stage, because they made it to the top 8 and then top 16, those 10 teams, and then only 6 teams from the first stage. So we actually get 16 teams, so only half effectively, compared to whatever it works out to 14
75,
out of 24.
Yeah, 75 or something like that.
But there's still the lion's share. Asia's the one that's done the best out of this, right? Asia's the one that like has the biggest increase in. Well, yeah, no, Asia definitely.
I don't know why that is, to be honest. That doesn't really make sense to me, if I'm completely honest.
But could it be because of the Mongols, right? Because the Mongols went deep. Could it be like normally there's only 4 spots?
But it's the same thing that we had for our Mars so far, right? Or like for the first stage, because we had kind of guaranteed spots for each region, which was it 3-3-2, right? For Europe, America, and Asia. Before that, so this time it's 6-6-4, so it is just doubling what was the case before, because we're doubling the amount of teams that are going to be in the first stage. That's the increase of the 8 teams that we're getting on top. So it makes sense.
It makes sense mathematically, but I'm not sure logically, because you just explained why it doesn't make sense logically and based on like the quality of teams and everything. Right. But I still, like, back to my original point, I still think tier 1 teams will not be playing this, and this can overlap. In my opinion, it should not happen a week before. I think it should happen like a month before these kind of qualifiers, and then you have everything set. I don't know where that would fall in the rankings, and it can be LAN, but I also don't necessarily think it should be, because of the teams and everything that's happening in the duration of the major. I just think, like, what they did was to try to move away from the importance of the RMR, so it should not be as important.
Yeah, it's not, right? It's only deciding the first stage teams, right? Everybody else gets invited straight. So we are getting it is much less important, because we don't get Navi, like being scared of making it to the major when they're the best team in the world or whatever, So we're eliminating
those
issues.
Yes. Yeah.
But
I think there's probably a balance to be struck.
It's still always going to be kind of awkward. I guess that's part of the reason why they removed open qualifiers, to remove kind of complete random teams entering the system under, let's say not 100% legit circumstances. Who knows, right? So that's part of it. So it's only coming from the ranking, which is only coming from all the big tournaments, right? I mean, most of it is going to come from the big tournaments, or the most important tournaments, and it's going to be across an entire season in theory, right? So there's a bit more reliability there. So maybe the fact that it's going to be online is not going to be such a big issue, even though everybody knows it plays out a little bit differently online, regardless of whether it's fair or not,
There's one other part of this with the things that got updated is obviously the drillers rule. So now if you have a roster and you're competing in a region, the substitute needs to make sure that you stay in contention for that region, essentially.
Yeah, your core has to stay within the region, yeah.
Yes. So that's a nice little change there. That was a loophole that was exploited, and now it's been exploited. It's been fixed. So fantastic. That's great. All right. I want to keep things moving. We can talk more about the major and the implications because that's going to be a big part of our conversation, right? That's the tippy top of the mountain. That's what this whole season's about, qualifying for the major, winning the major. That's this. I want to bring this next topic, and this is something that hopefully we spoke about this last year, Prof and I, in terms of bringing this to the show, but we didn't really enact it too many times. And this is going to be the dirt sheets. This is where you clowns at home get activated on the forums and you're having a bit of a chit chat. So I'm going to bring things up and kind of use that to relate to conversation or maybe talk about some of the points. So I'm going to start with user Trust Me Bro. No, what we're going to do is we're going to bring this one up, Lucas. I linked you the thread. I'm going to read out. No, I don't give a fuck that that's there, Lucas. Who cares, mate? Don't worry about that. Just bring it up. So I'm going to read this out for everybody at home. This is by user CL_. 2025 schedule is crazy. Did anyone take a look at it? Starting from the first event of the year and moving down the tail, there are 3 days between Blast Bounty, Spring, and Cato, 5 days between Cato and PGL Cluj Napoca, a week between PGL Cluj and Pro League, 3 days between Pro League and Blast Open Spring, a week between Blast Open Spring and PGL Bucharest. And this continues until the end of the year. This year, we're generally weighted, so being 2024, we generally waited for 2 to 3 weeks between events with some bet boom Dutches and the like sneaked in between. It doesn't hold a candle to what's coming next. Do you like it because we're getting a shit ton of CS? Do you dislike it because it will lower the quality of CS? Do you think it will cause viewer burnout, or will that not be an issue? Now, that last part, guys, because thank you, user CL_. You've left us with a question. So I can actually pose that to likes of Striker and Prof and you guys in chat right now. We can have a bit of a discussion about that. How do you guys feel about 2025 and the season, gentlemen?
I just like the fact that we got a very well-reasoned forum post on HLTV, one that is asking questions. It's not trying to just rage bait, like all of it is very, very sophisticated. I just appreciate this post.
Okay, well, Prof, as a forum abuser yourself,
I mean, there's many topics like this all the time. Our users are very intelligent. Only second to the Twitch chat users on the show. So and third is of course the YouTube commenters. They're kind of a lot of things are happening in the YouTube comments. Not really the purest arena of conversation. So.
You mean all the people who are saying that we're making beautiful videos are not valid, or
the lovely ladies?
Yes.
Great conversation always with them. But no, I mean this is kind of what we're going into. I think the big thing is who is going to actually attend all of these tournaments, who's going to skip what, and what the balance is going to be. I think we've been speaking for a while, like. Big teams are making the calls for the players about where to go, and these things are, for the most part, seemingly being done in advance, and that's not going to be like, oh, decide today for tomorrow where you're going, and like no TO would accept this anyway because they need to book stuff and flights and blah blah. So I feel like everyone's kind of committing for the first, essentially what was written down, like stuff until April when the major invites are probably going to be decided, and then people are going to probably go pretty hard. This is my expectation. I know we're talking about like people skipping PGL events, but I don't think they'll skip everything.
Cluj,
yeah, I don't think they'll, especially now that it's Cluj and it's not Buenos Aires, which is like literally a day of travel to there and back. I think that's going to help the point, and also obviously like getting those points and keeping other teams from being able to get those points.
Yes, exactly.
By taking an invite, right? Not allowing someone like Falcons or whatever that's going to be 25 to get an invite and kind of go past you. I think it's going to be stressful. People are going to complain, but it's also going to be pretty packed. And I really think like the first 3 events, it's not. There's no event is going to be. This is a question mark if people are trying. I think people are going to be trying super hard from the beginning.
Especially
but
the new rosters.
Form is not going to be there because
yes.
people just came from a break and a lot of new rosters. But I think people are going to try super hard, like from the beginning.
I think it's also not going to be as big of a problem in terms of burnout for players. Like, of course, we will have situations where, especially the teams that keep going so far, that keep going to the finals and all that stuff, if there's going to be a situation like we had with Navi.
Like FaZe
like
last
those
year.
FaZe last year, Navi, the second half of the season, right, where they were like getting to that point where they were playing all the way to the end, and then next week they had another tournament all the way to the end. So unless that happens a lot, I think they're going to be kind of okay, for the reason that a lot of these tournaments are spanning like 10 plus days, 2 weeks even sometimes, that you have the second week off if you don't make it so far, so that you already have like an extra week that you can use for practice, or you can just go back home and chill between events a little bit. So unless you keep going to these playoffs, you're not going to be in such a big problem. And also the teams that do keep going into the playoffs, the Navis, the Vitalities, all that stuff, they will be the ones prioritizing anyway. So they're not going to have the crazy schedule that all the 9 to 16 teams are going to have, because they have to play these tournaments so that they stay in the circuit, right? So, but those are not going to make it so far so often. So I think, it kind of takes care of itself naturally, apart from maybe some extreme cases, where teams will overperform, after already committing to a lot of invites.
Yes.
Not going to be happy about committing into a lot of invites because suddenly they're so competitive that they didn't need them, in the first place. So of course there will be some teams that are going to get screwed over to some degree, but I think it's going to be okay.
Yeah, I think this comes back to something that I've been bringing up on the show for years, even pre-pandemic stuff, was just about these teams exercising choice. And obviously from an organizational perspective, you want your team to be at many events as possible. And we'll talk about some of these incentive structures and what that means going forward for some of these teams as well. But I think it's just going to be about being tactical with the events that you pick and choose, and understanding where you fall within the VRS and what that means for your major qualification, and whether you have to go to extra events or not, right? That's just going to be the symptom of where you find yourself. So I think it's going to be interesting, especially from a conversational standpoint on all the different podcasts to be discussing different strategies that teams are going to need to employ based on where they are, or they really need to go to this event, or they really need a good result at this event. And it's going to change the conversation overall of the way that we look at these. Obviously, winning the titles is still going to be the most important. But if you have an event where a team gets top 4, like, okay, yep, that should secure them, they should be set, right? That's going to change what we're talking about from week to week. And we're going to be monitoring the VRS and everything on a much vehement, that's a bad word, on a much more intense basis.
Not such a bad word.
Well, vehemently, isn't it, like aggressively? I guess, no, that could have been fine. Yeah, I don't know why I'm doubting myself. I'm just around too many Australians who don't really know the English language all that well. That'd be my family. It's only a joke. So, yeah, I think choice is going to be quite key. Otherwise, something that I wanted to bring up was the viewer fatigue. Now, as a viewer, it's kind of like when people are like, why do you care that people are saying bad things about you on the internet? Just close your eyes. Kind of the same thing. If you don't want to watch as a viewer, if you're watching too much Counter-Strike, then you don't have to watch it all. Just pick the events you want to watch, or just watch the finals on the weekend. You don't have to watch all the group stage games. You don't have to. As you as a person can make your own choices. Nobody is going to force you to do anything. This is literally free entertainment. It's the same as like the thing I referenced at the start of this show. Right, like the person in the literal comments of the podcast we're about to do saying, don't do an episode because you're just going to talk about the same shit. It's like, bruh, you don't have to fucking watch the episode. Like, no one is making you come here. How is he going to know what
happens to the characters, bro? How is he going to know?
That's like just so crazy to me. It's just like, pick what you want to do. Like, do what you want to do. You're your own human being. You get there to make those choices. So I think that's just a key for everybody. And if viewer fatigue is something which is a genuine problem and it plays a factor, that will show in terms of the viewership numbers of these events. So you guys get to vote with your time. It's literally the most valuable thing we have, right? Yeah. So that's the way she goes, everybody.
I think for me, it's not necessarily the fatigue because exactly as you say, like people have their own choice of what they want to watch. Nobody forces them to watch everything. And realistically, not all of it will matter, but that's kind of where I'm getting to the issue, which is that the more stuff you have, the less each of it matters, the less of an impact all of it has, right? Unless you get to like the absolute biggest stuff, like the major, you know, where everybody's obviously going to be locked in and care about it the most. But that's kind of where, you know, they failed one tournament. Occasionally, it's going to be like, so what? We're going to the next. In the next week, you know, so we have a chance to make up for it now. So that's from that perspective. I wasn't sometimes happy with, you know, when 2018, 2019, you know, you failed one tournament, you went out in groups, in a week you made it to the finals, everything was forgotten, nobody really cared about the fact that you didn't do that well in the previous one, you know. So that kind of is where I'm not super happy with there being so many more tournaments and so much more overall.
Well, do you remember when cxzi said that he doesn't care about, was it the major? Because they have WASG coming up?
That was something like, I mean, that was like some, I remember what you mean, but I don't recall the exact code, but it was something like that. It was like Cologne into WASG or something, I don't remember, but something like that.
It's all about your mental framing, right, Prof?
Yeah.
It's all about what you tell yourself.
I mean, that's really some mental hoops that you have to go through and,
yeah.
But whatever.
All right.
Okay, yeah, it was with when they changed FNX for Phelps, I think, and he said, "Of course, the goal is to win the major, but if you get the legend spot and lose in playoffs, it's fine. Our goal right now is to win WSG. For us, that is the best tournament at the moment." That was goated 2018.
Hard to argue, isn't it? Hard to argue. All right, let's jump into the next things. This is gonna be the timeline. So based off the things that we were just speaking about, and literally that post. How'd you feel about that, Prof? That was like the first dirt sheets kind of thing we did. It was kind of nice.
What did you say? Sorry, I was still in the cxzi moment in my head.
No, that's all right. That's all right. What did you think about the did I stick the landing there? On
I think
the
that
dirt
was great.
sheets?
That was great.
There we go.
I love that.
I did an okay job, everybody. I can eat this month. Okay, we're gonna get into the timeline now. So Lucas, am I just gonna have to share this? Am I just gonna have to share my screen? Thanks, Lucas. Cool. Because I want to, or I can give you the link, and then you can bring it up. How's that sound? You can try, or I can share it. I only have my laptop. I don't have like another monitor or screen or anything, so I'm going to have a bit of a tough time. So this here, everybody, I spent a lot of time today doing this, and I've realized I didn't really need to, but I did it anyway. So we're just going to talk through some of this. We're going to go through all of the main events from the start of this season until the end of this season. Maybe we can talk a little bit of strategy and whatnot, and then I want to get into like a pros and cons and a question mark conversation about the main players. That's your PGO, that's your Blast, that's your ESO. In terms of what their offerings are, because we haven't actually on the show spoken about what ESL are offering in terms of their incentive program. We did Blast. PGLs is really cut and dry. So we'll get into some of that stuff too. Is it working, Lucas? Oh, I wasn't sharing my. Oh, okay. Sorry, I put the link. I'll share my screen. You're right, mate. It's all good. It's all. We'll get there. We'll get there together. Don't you worry. If I go full screen. Does it show the full screen if I F11 it? Or do I want to go slideshow? Is it full screen now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love this logo that you found.
Thanks, guys. I worked really hard today, so I spent my afternoon making this. So look, this is the event timeline for 2025, Season 1, January to June. And the first event is the one on the far left of the screen. That's great. That's the Blast Bounty. It's $500,000 prize pool. The initial stage is online. I put it in red because it's pretty egregious. The initial stage is online. That's going to run from January 14th to 18th. It's starting with 32 teams, and it's single elimination, best of 3 bracket. And it runs all the way down to the top 8 teams, which will then go to, I believe, their studio in Copenhagen, where they will play out the finals from the 23rd to the 26th. That's our opening event. And the cool thing with this event is the format. It's the lower seeds 17 to 32 get to pick their opponents, and each team has a bounty put on their head, and you take 50% of that bounty if you beat them.
It's also best of ones, which is like complete 180 from what the blast groups used to be, with like 7,000 elimination stages where you couldn't be eliminated ever. And now it's literally you lose one game, you're out.
You mean single elimination, not best of one, right?
Oh yes, sorry, I said
I was like, I had to double check.
single elimination.
Because I was like,
sorry,
what?
guys. Sorry,
There's
guys.
no way they did online best of one.
No,
That'd be crazy.
Single elimination, which also combined with the fact that this is the first tournament of the year, it's going to be so great because people are going to draw such grand conclusions based on the final results. When it's going to be like 2.5 good BO3s played, it's going to be like, these guys are winning the major. I love it. I can't wait for it. It's going to be so good.
Yeah, I think it's normally we would look at the Blast event as a bit of a table setter because we'd have all the partner teams that we'd get to see to kick off the year. And that would also still skew people's opinions, right? Because you wouldn't have Mouse there. You wouldn't have a lot of these things. So it's going to be similar in a way, but I like the fact the format's a little bit funky. Okay, and then we're going to move on to IEM Katowice. It's a staple. It's $1 million prize pool. We got the play-ins, which are going to run from the 29th of January to the 31st of January. That's starting with 16 teams. That's just it's like a straight bracket. Whereas 8 teams from that will then qualify and join the 8 teams who will be awaiting in the next group stage, and then we'll have our arena finals and all that jazz. But the second portion of the tournament, which is after the play-ins, will be from February 1st to the 9th. And nothing too crazy with this. They're still able to function pretty much exactly how they would in the past, right?
I guess the way you wrote it here is kind of misleading. It says like arena finals, and then it's like 16 teams.
Yeah.
But
I could
obviously,
fix it now.
the top 8 would be the arena finals and the play and
Top 6.
And yeah, top 6, yes.
It'd be a 6 team.
Unfortunately, top 6.
Yeah, which is a shame. Yeah, my structuring there is poor. I apologize to everybody for
definitely
that.
Because I guess we can talk about Cluj-Napoca and PGL events will have 8 team playoffs.
Yes.
And this will happen in one day, if I'm not mistaken.
Like maybe quarterfinals.
Yes.
Yeah, the quarterfinals
in
will be one day.
So if this turns out to be a success, then obviously ESL will probably follow suit and do it the same way. Well, we'll see how that goes. Definitely like the idea.
This is why I like the fact that PGL are doing it, because the thing is, like, they're aware that the first game or first 2 games of that Friday is going to have not the best optics in terms of fans in the arena. Right? They have to be aware of that.
Yeah, sure.
But I think the fact that they're still doing that is great. Like, because it's like, yeah, you're playing in a slot where people are working and they're not going to be there. And I know there's going to be the standard mob online of, oh, there's no turnout in the arena. But I would much prefer to have an 8-team playoff bracket with, 4 of the 8 teams maybe not getting the best experience within that arena. But it's not about their experience, it's about the viewers' experience. And if it ever got to a point where the viewer's like, man, I have to take work off on Friday so I can see if I can Mouse play against Eternal Fire as the first quarterfinal, then yeah, fuck yeah, do it. But that's just not the state of the game at the moment. But I much prefer this than what I think is like a worse group stage with the way that IEM Katowice and stuff is. I think the group stage is worse because of the fact that if you lose your opening game, right, there's only one team that can make it through that lower bracket run, especially at the start of the season when everything's going to be much more in flux. Whereas like... Yeah. The only downside I have with the PGL stuff, and this isn't their fault, this is just the fact that the majors are run this way, is we're just going to have so much fucking Swiss. There's going to be so much Swiss. Like, it's just not going to stop, mate.
PPL, that's my now.
It's also fully best of 3 at least at PGL.
Well,
which I think
you say at least, that just means like a shitload more Counter-Strike. Like, I'm a little bit unorthodox. I don't mind the best of ones in the major cycle with the Swiss. I think it's okay. I think it works. As long as the seeding's good, I think it works out all right. Anyway, yeah. So, the top of the pops there, 1.25 milli with PGL. That's for all of their events throughout the course of the year. It's fucking crazy. It's great. ESL Pro League, they're going to come up next, and we're going to talk about this because the prize money for like Blast Bounty and ESL Pro League and the other ESL events, we'll talk about the incentive structures and the club money and all this kind of shit soon. It's going to be a studio event. It's going to be in Stockholm, Sweden. As far as I'm aware, there's going to be no crowd. March 1st to 16th, 24 teams, more fucking Swiss. Hooray. Blast Open Lisbon. So this one, something to note with the Blast events, especially these, actually, no, I think, with these open events,
just open
and
ones,
even the bounty too, is there's a significant break period between the initial group stage and then the playoffs. Now, understandably so, like online, people need to travel to the studio. Same here, they're playing studio and then they're going to travel to Lisbon. So the studio, I imagine, is going to be in Copenhagen for them to play. But there is that break, and I know that ESL were doing that in the past with some of their stuff. It still is, right, with the group stage ending. Yeah, it's like group stage ends on the Monday, or is it the Tuesday now? Do we go as deep as the Tuesday,
I think Tuesday
now? And then we
Tuesday, I think.
Yeah, so it's only a 2-day break now because they've extended it. Yeah. So there's going to be some of these breaks here. So what are we talking? A little bit more. That we're talking, a 4-day break. So people just need to keep that in mind, that this is going to drag out a little bit longer. All right, can I hit this and go next slide? Oh, it did work. Look at that. Okay, so then as we move into April, we're going to have PGL Bucharest, another 1.25 million. As far as I'm aware, is that just a studio event?
Yes.
Okay,
I think
so that's
so.
just going to be from their offices.
I would get, yeah. Who knows if office or like a hotel or something, but something like that probably, yeah.
But they did. I know they've done like Dota events from there in recent history. I think they did one in 2024 or whatever. Like I don't know how to say it. I won't even try. The name is like something Romanian.
Studio.
Yeah, something Romanian. But same format, same everything. That's going to go from the 5th of April to the 13th. Same everything that we just discussed. Then Yellow Compass. So this is going to be held in Qatar. As far as the information goes, I don't know if it's going to have a crowd. I would assume probably a smaller one like we tend to see from these Middle Eastern events. This was going to kick off on April 15th, finish on the 20th. It's a 12-team event. And the interesting thing about this is the format they've opted for. Now, there are qualifiers to fill out some of these slots within the 12. But it is 2 round-robin groups, so broken up into 6 teams. And then from that, 3 teams from each group will go to a 16 playoff. So I thought that, something a bit different, which means, it's nice, not so much Swiss. IM Spring.
I'm honestly a bit surprised they got away with round-robin groups.
They're not the only one. There's also something else I was reading.
Yeah, I think groups. Sky Esports or something.
Yeah, the Masters. Yeah.
Yeah. But from conversations with Valve, they were also not very happy about any tournaments where there are matches that don't mean anything. And that's what happens in pretty much every round robin, where you get to a certain point and one team is not playing it for anything, or both teams are not playing for anything. So in terms of, how much importance they put on relevant data for their VRS, I'm actually kind of surprised they didn't just straight out kind of ban this in some way, but they never actually said anything against it in the rules. It's more about side conversations on the side I've had with them. So that's curious.
Okay. Then we have IM Spring, which is coming up, 300,000, April 21st to 27th, 16 teams, arena finals, 16 playoff again, location to TBA, unless you go on Reddit right now. Blast Rivals. This is this one I'm still really curious about. So like this has to be a wildcard event, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So does that mean it
has to be. It's 8 teams. Yeah, you cannot.
They invite every team.
They changed it from they originally wanted to invite every team like normally, but then now they have to have 4 global and then 1 regional, like 1 from each region.
Okay.
Because it's basically, I mean, the way that it works, it's corresponding to the risings, which are qualifiers for open, but they also work as a tier 1 event.
This tier 1 regional event. So
it's kind of a fuckery of the system, but it in some way it works with the rules, at least close enough.
Yeah, okay. Just a couple of things I want to note, because I can see some people in chat talking about the prize money and stuff. So we'll talk about this in a minute's time, but with your like IEM Sprig, there's club money as well. Same with your ESL Pro League. With the Blast Rivals, we know there's the frequent flyer program and all those other things too. So the strategy that some of these tiers have employed is different, but we'll talk about that in a moment's time. Then another PGL event. Like, think about how much money we've just seen PGL putting out there. It's just straight prize money. It's fucking crazy. That's the Astana event. I think that'll be huge. I think that will have a really big crowd. It'll be likely Russian casting within the arena and stuff, but I reckon it'll be a really big turnout there. Yeah. Because that part of the world's not really serviced in that way. Okay, next one. IEM Dallas. So that one, it just has a different qualification system than what IEM Spring has. Sky Esports Masters, this is 500,000. Oh, what? Sorry, just to go back, Blast Rivals doesn't have a location yet either.
Nope, neither of them.
So that's
also everyone knows where it is, but like we'll hear it eventually.
Okay, I don't. You
At least the first one
later. Sky Esports Masters will be in India. That's from May 26th to the 1st of June. So like, we're already in May, guys. So we're getting to the
possible, by the way, for that to be tier 1 effectively. Well, maybe not
Okay,
impossible.
talk me through
but,
it.
Well, just looking at the
So the
date, I mean,
8
if it's
teams?
1st of June, considering the major is going to be moved to travel to somewhere around that area, there's no way people are going to go from India all the way to Austin just over a few days, or 2 days or whatever, or the day straight after Sky Sports Masters. That's effectively the reason why Star Series, the event that you have next, is canceled as far as we can tell. So, I mean, we're going to get into that.
Now I put it here because we've discussed this a couple of times, right? And this is the bit that upsets me about the system, is these events. And I know, look, we'll give them the first 6 months, but if this shit happens next year and stuff, and TOs are putting events in and they're not following through on them, I'm gonna get real angry, because it shouldn't be that way, right? The whole point of this is so that teams are meant to be able to plan ahead, and if there's going to be fake events in the calendar, you're going to upset me greatly. Then we're going to have the major regional qualifiers. We don't know exactly where they're going to play in. That's why there's a shitload of question marks. We were talking about that just before. And then the thing that everybody's playing for is going to be the Blast TV Austin Major, 1.25 milli, roughly from the 4th of June to the 22nd, 32 teams, 3 times Twistzz stages, 8 teams playoffs. So there you go. That's the timeline. Cool. Did we cover everything?
Yeah, I think so, pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right.
Someone in chat was also asking, wrote a question or a suggestion that they would like to see the VRS points for every tournament, but that's not even possible. That's not how it works.
It's a match by match.
So I can
Yeah.
how much they earn.
Yeah, you can't
right.
really.
Okay.
That's not really decided. The only thing you can really take is actually the prize pool, and this is maybe where I don't want to say don't fully agree, but this is the data we have currently on our website, and we probably will be updating it soon. Is that from all that we know, it's not just the player prize money, but also the club or the org prize money that's gonna dictate how important the tournament is for the VRS. So that's why I am Dallas. It's not gonna be 5 times less important than PGL event, because there's a big portion of the club prize money that is missing here. That's going to bring it into a more even standing, not completely even. I think PGL
That's 1 million
still,
for all those, yeah.
PGL will still be more, yeah.
Yeah,
Let's get
yeah,
into that.
we can get in that.
Let's get in that conversation though. So can you guys see this? Are we still sharing my
we
screen?
can see it.
Okay, so I'm going to need to get out of full screen here and add some text box to this as we do this. But what I wanted to do was talk about the 3 major players, right? So we've got Blast, we've got PGL, and we have ESL. Those are the 3 major players that we just went through the timeline with. And each TO has a different offering of essentially it's just a business model of what they think is going to be the most enticing to bring teams and orgs to their event, right? Because the way this works, everybody, with the VRS, if you're the highest ranked teams, let's say it's a 16-team event and you're one of the top 1 to 16 based on the VRS at that point, you don't have to go to the event. You have the choice to go if you're invited. You will be invited because of your rank, but you don't have to go. So that's what we're talking about exercising choice. So there's going to be different factors that play in here, whether this is the prize money, this is the frequent flyers that Blast have, this is the club money that ESL have. So all of these different factors play into the choices that you're going to be making and wanting to attend different events, as well as location, the way that TOs treat you, the different things that they're giving you in terms of hospitality, et cetera, et cetera. So what I wanted to do with the 3 of us was talk through some of the pros, cons, and question marks that we have with these TOs going into the first season of the year. So, I'll kick us off so that we kind of get a general idea. But if I'm going with a pro for Blast, I think it is interesting formats, right? Or format, maybe I'll just say, because I don't know how I feel about the other 2, but I like what they're trying to do with Bounty. I think it's a little bit different. It's a nice palette cleanser coming out of the break and to start the year. So for me, interesting format, and maybe I'll just do dash Bounty. What
I would add,
you guys got?
I would add wildcard invites for Bounty as well. I think that's important and good for the scene.
Okay, you like that? Okay. What pros you got, Striker? What do you feel about the frequent flyer? Do you think that's a pro? Do you think that's a con? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, personally, I couldn't care less. It's just their way of locking down invites, right? So I don't. It's a pro. It's a pro for the big clubs, of course, but overall for the scene, is it better than PGL putting everything in the prize money, or the way ESL handling things? Where at least it is placement. If anything, I would probably put that as a con, because it's not tied to performance. It is just tied to what your ranking is at the time of invite, or how many of these events you. Well, partly it is, but how many of these events you attend and all that stuff. So in a way, the way that they've dealt with the incentives is actually a con for me from a competitive standpoint.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to play like devil's advocate here for a second. So, like from that standpoint, I can't really argue. But I guess if I present like another view of the model, then the side that I would imagine, I don't want to speak for Blast here, but the side that I'd imagine that they'd take is, well, the orgs are the ones who are paying these players, right, and kind of enabling what they're able to do, and so this money is going. I don't even know if it's going to be going directly to the orgs, right? But that money is going to keep those businesses alive.
That's fair enough, but at least make it result based so that it's actually incentive. Like there's an incentive to place well, not just get invited or be there. Like,
but you have to place well to get invited, right?
Yes, of course, but place well at all the other tournaments, not at yours. Like it's just about like what ranking you earn at all the other invites, so that you can get invited to Blast. So that's of course it is merit based to some degree, but it's not merit based at the tournament that they're getting invited to. So effectively they're saying how you place at our events isn't that important. You just need to get invited in terms of how much money you get, and then you need to come to as many of them as possible to earn into the frequent flyer and all that stuff. Of course, you get more points by placing further, and you get more points by winning, but a lot of it has nothing to do with performance, right? So that's part of it that I don't like. The part that I do like is that it seems to have worked, so they will actually have all the best teams, so that would be a pro because compared to PGL, and that's something we're going to get into, it seems they've actually incentivized all the big orgs to commit to their circuits, so we're actually going to have all these teams.
We expect big teams to attend.
Yeah, we expect it to be like very good competition.
I also have a quick question. Chad, you said you had a hard out in 7 minutes from now.
No, I guess I'm staying. I just wanted to go to bed, but it's fine.
Yeah, we can speed it up or not.
We're not that far off now.
No, it's fine. We'll keep
I also
going.
have
I put a lot of work into this today.
In 40 minutes, so that's my hard out. That's
okay.
All right.
I think that's fine.
Frequent
we can hit
flyer
that.
enabling best teams. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm listening. No. I was just gonna say, would we also put frequent flyer as an overall like concept in question marks to see how it kind of plays out?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll add it there too. Because for some people who in chat might not know, the frequent flyer program, essentially you earn tokens over the course of the year for attending the Blast events. And then at the end of the year, depending on how many tokens there are on the board, a certain amount of money, I forget the exact figure, is split between those teams depending on how many tokens they had. I think that's the long and the short of it right there. Okay.
Yeah, and then also teams get the prize money for if they're ranked a certain, depending on their ranking, they get extra money for accepting the invite effectively. So at the time of invite, if you're ranked 1st to 4th, you're gonna get, I don't know if it's like 40,000 for bounty, and I don't know for open and like 80,000 for the top 4 for wildcard or for rivals. Or something, so even at the time of invites, you get money for just accepting the invite as a higher ranked team.
So that's not part of the frequent flyers, though, is it?
No. That's extra. That's the extra thing, because this is what I'm talking about is tied to event, and then frequent flyers across the entire season or even 2 seasons. I don't remember how that works exactly. That they will pay out at the end of the year, based on the ranking of the tokens and all that, like who finishes where based on the tokens.
Yeah, okay. What do we have for cons? Do we have any cons for what Blast are putting out there?
I mean, it's what I was saying with kind of putting a lot of the incentives outside of performance. So I don't like that about tournaments in general. I mean, just, offering teams free money just for accepting the invite and all that stuff.
This is going to be embarrassing.
What do you incentives? There you go. You spelled it all right. You spelled it all right.
People are gonna, yeah, well, I'm trying so hard. I don't know. People are going to see how stupid I truly am. Let me make this a bit smaller. Yeah, okay. So that falls into the cons there. What about like out of the 3, don't Blast have the least amount of open qualifiers?
Now, I mean, they have open qualifiers for the opens effectively, or not. Maybe I don't know about open, but they have the risings that play into the opens. They have obviously they have the wild card, which is kind of another way to keep it a bit more. I don't know if open is the right word, but yeah, I don't know if the least is the right word to use, because no, it's not like ESL has that much more. They only have Dallas and one more that they have some sort of qualifiers for.
There's lots of
I could say
first part, yeah, sure.
let's just say few qualifiers.
Okay.
Could be more qualifiers.
Could be
But
more
that would be for
qualifiers.
all of these. Every single one of
Probably,
these we
yeah.
would.
I think doesn't PGL have pretty much?
PGL has like 4 slots per event or something now after they've changed it. So
I think PGL can get away with that one.
Okay. So interesting format: bounty, wildcard invites for bounty, FF/ it's probably incentives that enabling best teams, incentives outside of performance. Yeah, okay, that does make sense in context of our conversation. 16 playoffs, I put that one there. That one I don't like. Few qualifiers. I don't like the rivals format either.
What is rivals?
I mean,
GSL
rivals effectively
teams.
what we have now for finals, no?
Yes, exactly.
It's-
For like the
it's a
4
four.
finals or whatever.
Yeah,
It's
I
a
mean, I don't like the
format.
fact that group stages effectively. Like, I mean, it's the same thing.
Like a
It's the
bunch
same
of
thing
exhibition
that I
games
don't
again.
like. Yeah, it's the same thing that we don't like about skipping stages and all that stuff. I've never been really happy about that. So I
I
agree.
wouldn't say shit. I think it's mid. I think it's mid.
Okay, I'll go with mid. It's
I
less
think it's
strong,
mid.
but the kids know what it means. All right. Is there anything
Okay.
else here with the blast stuff that
Well,
we?
I think it's a good overview.
Okay, let's jump down to PGLs. Merit based, fucking love it. Like, and the word based, I mean it in all of its senses. Like that's what I mean right here. Like that's the best thing about the PGL thing. It's like if
You
you
mean
think,
Okay.
yeah,
You mean the prize pool or?
yeah.
Yeah.
The whole thing for me, like in the sense of if you're not being asked to come to the event because you're buddies with with Blast or your ESL, like there's no incentive program there. It's just, do you think you're the best team in the world? Come to our event and prove it. You can win $400,000 first prize. Oh, and guess what? That's literally at every single one of our events, and we have multiple of them in the course of the year, and we're giving away the most just hard prize money out of everybody.
I guess
Like,
most player prize money. You could write that down.
Yep. I like it.
I would say
Some people will like the format. I think too much Swiss, but that's just me.
I think it's a very I don't want to say fair. I don't want to say rigid, but it's a very like it's really gonna get the best teams performing the best. I feel like I think it's a good format. I think it's a what's the word? It's not rigid, not regimented, but it's like it's very, it has a lot of layers.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
It produces.
can't think of the word right now.
I can't. But let's say solid formats.
Okay.
And I would
Solid
also say
format.
cool location with Astana. I would say.
Okay,
Yeah.
Astana, cool.
Would have been cooler if they had kept Buenos Aires, but what can you do?
Nah, but we understand that one. That one
Robust,
makes sense.
robust format. There we go.
Robust format.
That's the word.
There you go. Robust. Change it.
All right, done. In terms of the third place decider, should we put that one in the question mark bucket?
I would say, because like historically we know they don't really matter to the teams that play them. So unless somehow they're going to be more incentivized by the ranking or whatever, some teams probably will, some teams won't.
Yes, we need
there
to
will
see
be.
how that
We're going to
plays
have to
out,
see. I think in general, if I had to make a prediction, it would probably be just as kind of irrelevant as it has been. But seeing them back just for fans in the arena and all that stuff, I mean, to some degree, that's a pro, right? If you want to go there, you want to watch those teams play, you get the chance. So that's just more on offer for the people who actually pay for the tickets, which I think is always a good thing. People at home don't have to watch something that they don't care about, right?
They'll still complain about it though. The people, at home,
Of course,
the people who don't pay for the tickets, or the viewing experience at all, with other than their time that they don't have to give. The cons. What type of cons are we seeing for PGL events throughout the year?
I mean,
guess-
yeah, go ahead.
I think questionable team attendance.
Yeah.
Questionable top team
Okay.
attendance.
Okay, Interesting.
It's going to be under the question marks as well in a lot of ways, but I think we can pretty much predict that it's not always going to be the best.
Okay, all right. Because I know we had this conversation, but then it felt like that conversation was being snuffed out a little bit, and then now it feels like it's back from the two of you. Because I don't know. I don't know
be
what
in
to
question
expect.
marks. Could be in cons. I think.
Okay.
Depends on if we're going to be right with our prediction or not. It seems from talking to the teams that they have effectively kind of committed to ESL and Blast, at least a lot of the top ones, not all of them. And then anything PGL, they will tend to spoil more because they have the space in the calendar, or maybe they are going to be ranked too dangerously, not to attend it, so they can't really afford to skip it, more from that angle. But it seems there's definitely going to be some skips. If there are going to be some skips, it's going to be the PGL events. It's not going to be the ESL, and it's not going to be the Blast.
Okay, well, let's put it in cons because we'll take the strikers liaison with the orgs as gospel, even though that's never safe to do. But we'll do it for this scenario. What else overall are we thinking in terms of pros, cons, question marks for these, or do we think we've hit a decent little amount here? We're being quite kind to everybody.
I guess some studio events, 1 or 2 studio events.
But that would be the same for like
one. It's the same for Blast. It's the same for
Bounty
BSL
Studio.
who have VPL rights.
Okay, then I guess
at the moment it kind of feels very similar between those three.
Yeah. Everyone has a studio event here. They're everywhere. Yeah. You don't get, the only thing that I would think about is you don't get any content with PGL, but that has nothing to do with the Counter-Strike.
Like generally the broadcast experience or whatever is probably going to be on the third place, right, between these. So I don't know if you can, I guess you can put that as a con, but that's also more of a prediction, right?
Yeah, true. Let's leave it for now. We can add to this as the season goes.
What do you know about casters and stuff? How much they're going to go to these events?
It's a good question.
I mean,
I
you
don't
have
know.
to speak on behalf of other people. I'm just curious.
I haven't spoken. PGL hasn't spoken to me like last year or this year about working their events for this year.
Okay.
I don't know what that conversation looks like with other casters. In terms of Blast, they always hire like quite a more tight knit group, right? Like they have their people that they have their people that they like, and they really only use those people.
I mean, I guess for casters, but for desk, I feel like they change a lot, actually.
Yeah, but they also only do 2 people desks, so they cut down. Like they have people work more than it would be. Let's say if it was like a Katowice or a Cologne, right? Like they just do like host and analyst, and sometimes they're doing analyst and analyst, and one of them plays the role of the host. So they hire a lot less people, for sure. So yeah, I see what you're saying in terms of the analyst, but that's I think because they're looking for, obviously replacing Maniac is one of those, and then looking for people who are good within that job. I think like one of the things that I think I like about Blast is Frederick over there. He knows what he's looking for, and I don't think he's found it yet. Like I just like that he hasn't gotten lazy within the role, and he's not just hiring people for the sake of it or people because they have a gig or whatever. Right? That's one of the things I actually quite like about what they do with the analysts over there at Blast. Okay, ESL. Here we go. Now I can't speak here, gentlemen, so you have to do all of the talking for this. So get going.
You're chill. Same thing with kind of enabling the best teams. I'm trying
to be the opposite, so I can't say anything. So okay, you reckon?
I mean, same thing with teams, right? It seems like they have locked down all the best teams. They're going to have the best attendance, or at least one of like among the best teams all the time, I would imagine. We'll see about the kind of the more awkward events for them, either location wise or timing wise, but probably will have a very good attendance. Best 2 tournaments of the season outside of the majors.
Best
of the season or the year?
Of the season?
Of the year.
Of the year, yeah. I don't know if this is about the season or about the whole year.
Well, we can go year. It's fine. We are like we're talking broadly right now about the next will come up.
Best non-major events in Cologne and Katowice.
Yeah. Okay. Fair.
Yeah.
What about their incentive program, Striker? Can you Eli 5 it for me? I only learned what that meant the other day.
I like that at least a lot of it comes down from performance. So the club prize money versus player prize money, they actually just split it, but it's both based on how they place at the tournament. So that's actually, at least to some degree, merit based. I think you still get some guarantees for bottom placing, but you do for prize money for players anyway. So the money that goes to the clubs, it actually goes to everybody that actually plays at the event. It's not, some ranking at the end of the year. Eventually it is. They also have that part of it as well for kind of end of year viewership points and whatever, how far you go in those tournaments. I think that kind of plays into it. Like what kind of viewership you accumulate over the matches that you play at those tournaments. And in the end, you get some bonuses at the end of the year off that. So it's kind of like a halfway between what PGL is doing and what Blast is doing. And I kind of like that balance. I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, you're kind of rewarding the organizations that pull in the viewers, right? But you're also rewarding teams for placing well, to a very high degree, like it is.
So merit-based incentives is one that you would put in this?
Is a good one. So like all of their events are effectively, like the merit part of it is effectively like $1 million plus for all of their tournaments, so kind of similar to the PGL system, really.
Do you have it handy? Because I can't alt tab or anything right now while I'm sharing my screen, but can you just so because the thing is for like the Katowices and the Colognes, I'll
give it down
because everybody wants to attend. They haven't done the club money there.
They have like just not as much. So the Katowice and Cologne, they have player share 1 million and club share 250K. So that's the one that's very heavily into prize money. And then Dallas, Spring, Chengdu, that's the IEMs. The player share is 300,000, but the club share is 700,000. So that's the most skewed. And then Pro League is player share 400,000 and club share 600,000.
Okay. So this with all of this, right? So that's bringing them more in line or pretty damn close to the type of money that PGL is putting out there. And Prof, you said just before that you guys are going to have to integrate that information into the website.
I mean, in some way probably, because it will play into the ranking, right? So it doesn't really reflect fully the reality of the situation, right?
So,
I
mean, we know with my timeline, right? My timeline doesn't fully reflect what's going to have impact on these events. It's actually only showing from like a player perspective there. So I'll go back and update that once we get. Okay.
You also had, I think, Astana as a studio. I saw some Russian Telegram channel picked it up as us saying that it's a studio, but I think it's just a typo on your end.
Check.
Yeah, if you go back, it's just copied from Bucharest, I think, and so it's a studio.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah. Let me delete that. Sorry, everybody.
Sorry, we're making plenty headlines today.
But I like that part as far as cons go. Probably same thing with the formats. Not happy with the 16 playoffs at all, skipping stages and all that stuff. They actually copied the major format, which everybody kind of hates to some degree, right? For EPL as well, where there's also 8 teams going further and all that stuff. So yeah, not a big fan of that.
Yeah.
Any question marks?
Honestly, not really. I don't know what the question marks could be.
Yeah,
question mark would be whether EWC complies.
Okay.
Which is not technically. I mean, technically it is ESL.
Well,
technically it's not ESL. It is run by them, regardless of what the company actually is. So I mean, I'm just curious if that's actually something that's that will come out same as last year, or something where some of the organizations got the extra money for just doing stuff at the EWC, but not all of them. They have some sort of a system for that, and that's technically against the rules in Counter-Strike. So if there's anything like that happening this year, that would be very clearly against the spirit of the new rules. So that's maybe the question mark.
Okay. All right. Cool. We can come back and readdress some of this. I feel bad that I left that thing in now, and it's fucking ended up on a Telegram channel, and people are. I have to be more careful. That's I mean,
bad. They also didn't do the greatest at listening. They were just looking at the graphic apparently, because we clearly were saying Astana is going to be huge. The irony is going to be packed.
Yeah.
So
well, it's classic that they usually don't listen. All right, let's get stuck into this next and final part, shall we? I can't change the ticker thing, Lucas. If you can change it now to the fucking time capsule thing, that'd be great. Okay, so we've done this. We did this last. You like this?
Insane graphic.
Thanks, man. I worked really hard on this. I was having a whole day. So let me go full screen for everybody playing at home. But yeah, so we did it for last year. We did it for both seasons. And it's just nice to be able to return to it once the season comes to a close and we can see, were we right? Were we wrong? How far off were we? How ridiculous were we? Oh, and it kind of just helps stimulate a bit of the conversation. So we added an extra one this time around. Now, I will be honest, this does not look clean at all. This next thing looks ridiculous. So I need everybody just to kind of bear with it. It's more about what we're saying than how it necessarily looks. So without any further ado, here we go. So we have, we're going to be predicting the major winner, the major MVP.
What is this from? I can't recognize with my face on top of it.
I just Googled like astronaut time traveler. And then I just put your head on it. Okay. So yeah, we got major winner, major MVP, don't make the major, a breakout player or team. We'll talk about that one because that's a bit more of a striker prof idea. Team to make roster changes and team of the season. So we're going to be filling out all of those. I'm going to have to go out of full screen here because I need to edit the boxes.
Okay.
So, wait, how do I get it a slideshow?
He's switched.
Yours is amazing, Chad.
There we go.
This
Okay. Now
Australian
we're back
climate
in
doing you
business.
wonders.
Thank you. Okay, so Prof, you happy to go first because you don't have a choice?
Okay, yeah. Let me give me a second. So, major winner, major MVP, team of the season. So I'm thinking about good teams. So I'm thinking Spirit. I'm thinking Vitality. I'm thinking, should I think G2? I don't know now with this change. Without Nico, I can't really put them in the same category. I had them before. Thinking, what is FaZe with Elige, right? Who am I missing? Mouse is kind of where they were. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I think it's in terms of winning a major, I don't think they're any closer, but I don't think they're going to be bad either. Liquid, outside shot. Am I missing anything? Navi, obviously Navi. Okay, so that's what I'm working with.
It's
recency
tough,
bias, obviously Spirit, but it's like too predictable.
Yeah, but that's fine.
I'm really excited about this Vitality roster. I'm really excited about ropz and Vitality. And they also have 666 points, and FaZe do as well. That's a sign right there.
So you want to go with Vitality?
I want to go with Vitality. I'm going to go with Vitality. I'm going to go with the Vitality ZywOo.
Okay.
It is what it is.
All right, we've got Vitality.
Yeah.
Vitality ZywOo. You want ZywOo MVP? Obviously.
Yeah, I mean, if Vitality is winning, they might as well. Like, no one else is going to be MVP if they win. Team of the season. It doesn't make sense to put Spirit if they're not. Like, it does.
Why not?
But I'm kind of like hedging my bets, right? Hedging my bets.
Yeah, but just because the team won the major doesn't mean it's the team of the season. It means it's most likely going to be the team of the season.
I mean, we had Spirit winning when second half of the season was pretty clearly Navi, right? So
yeah, and first half of the season, Navi won the major, but they weren't the best team.
Yeah.
So it was probably FaZe, right, at the time. Maybe a Spirit. Depends on how you put it. Yeah, let's put Spirit. Let's put Spirit there for team of the season. Not don't make the major. Okay. Don't make the major. We're talking about a few options
you can
there.
Pick anyone.
Obviously, NIP was there. Don't make the major. So any 32 teams. We're talking 32 teams.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to pick
16 in Europe. It's not that high.
Yeah. I'm going to pick... let me see. We had a lot of teams that we talked about. I'm thinking VP. Overall, Astralis exists still. That's also kind of crazy. I'm feeling VP very strongly, but I don't know if I should make them as a roster change or I should make them, don't make them the major.
I mean, you could say both.
Yeah, but it's not as fun, right?
No.
I think I'll put them, don't make a major. But who was I talking about that's going to make a... Yeah. Who was I talking about that's going to make a roster change on these previous...
Falcons.
Yeah, Falcons is easy. Let's put Falcons there.
Okay, nice.
And I also have breakout team of the year.
Now, this one here I want to talk about because I said in the WhatsApp group, I said, do you want to add anything? And Striker said like breakout team. And I think you said breakout player or team. I don't remember exactly how the conversation went, but this would require some form of rules because like, you know, I don't want you guys to just do all the...
As long as you can defend it, I feel like we don't have to make it super strict. I mean...
I feel like if you're like, I mean, we're not going to have top 20 at the end of the season, but let's say if you're first time making top 20, I think that's like a breakout year, right? If you would be in that conversation, be that kind of a player, that would be on a player basis. And for a team, I would say getting from outside of the top 30 to the top 15-ish, you know, regularly. So I feel like maybe for last year or last season, that would be a team like Passions or Sangal, for example. These would be like breakout teams. Or maybe like a new team.
Maybe that's
like
too far out, but yeah.
Maybe like BetBoom, for example, could be a breakout team, like new lineup.
Or Saw. Saw is a good one from last year.
Yeah, I mean BetBoom this year, for example.
Yeah.
If they signing Boomich in Exile, Zorte, Siren, Magnojes, whatever. I think that's a good one. I feel like BetBoom could be a good one for this season. Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, we'll put you in there with your spacesuit, and you can travel into the future, and we'll find out. Okay, Striker, you're up next. Now you are a bit more suave, as you can see here. So
is this from?
No, it's AI. This is all AI, right?
No, it's not AI. I did AI because I knew that I would rile everybody up on Twitter because for some reason everybody hates AI. It's like the funniest thing.
It does look like shit, but it's also kind of funny in a way.
It's so funny. But I just Googled like futuristic time traveler, and this is one of the images that I came up with.
Okay. So I had some time to think about it. So I will go with, and this is more of a storyline based thing rather than, you know, actually thinking that they'll 100% win. I will go with G2 to win the major.
Wow.
Exactly for the reason that I feel like it would be very poetic for Nico to leave and then they would win the major without him. And I will go give Malbs the major MVP.
Malbs, his replacement.
I think the fact that he will go into those roles, like it was so fucking impressive on T that I can't expect him. Like, I think he will be a top 5 player next year.
Okay.
Or this year. So I'll throw a punt. Because I think he was so fucking good on T side, and then he was hamstrung so much on the CT that if he changes roles, he's gonna blow everybody out of the water. So I think I'll just throw a punt that way. Okay, team of the season though, I will go with Vitality as well, and for the reason that they got another kind of big match player in ropz, and that was kind of somewhere where Spinks was a bit up and down. It was a bit of a struggle for him to put up the same numbers as he did, you know, in group games and all that. And ropz has historically been one of the biggest big match players. You know, he was, even the previous year, you know, in 2023, he improved in the big matches and all that, you know, so he just knows how to hit the next level when it gets to crunch time. And that's always felt like kind of a drawback for Vitality, that they were sometimes lacking that in the deep playoff games occasionally. I mean, they only won one tournament in the end, right? Last year. So that was or last season. So that was kind of something holding them back. Then team to make roster changes, I will go with, I had somebody in mind. Okay, I'll think about it later. Don't make the major, I'll go Complexity. I think after the changes, I feel like, especially if they have to play in that MRQ, and I mean, that's the way that they miss out on the major, right? But if they fall in the rankings, they have to play the MRQ. I think there's a very good chance that they don't make it out with the lineup that they have at the moment. There's, you know, a couple of North American teams that could go over them, even down, you know, now after the changes. And if they end up in the grouped one with South America as well, that could be a pretty dangerous one. So I think there's a good chance that they don't make it. Breakout player or team. After I said everything about an IP, I still want to pick them, even though I'm not, like, I do doubt that they will get enough opportunities to show it. But I hope that the opportunity that they will get, you know, maybe in the second part of the season, even if they don't make the major, which I'm kind of expecting, I do hope that if they qualify for something late in the season, like a Dallas, like, you know, some of these late Astana or one of these tournaments, and I think they will do well at one of these. I think they will do pretty well in the end of the first season. So I'll do NIP.
Okay.
Team to make roster changes. I had something in mind. I think VP is kind of almost too obvious because they've just been a revolving door. Is this like in the off season after? What are we talking about? The
It's
timeline
until the
Throughout the
start of
season.
season.
well, until the end, or like
Yes.
until the second season starts.
No.
So
I
during
reckon
the
we
season,
do
you
it.
want during the season?
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of tough. I mean, looking at the top teams is kind of difficult for that. I don't think any of them would throw a punt like mid-season. You know.
I mean, can
Could
be
do.
outside of the top 10 easy.
But that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, but that's kind of boring because there's a lot of teams there that will probably make changes. It's probably going to be more or less like almost everybody at some point.
You don't think Astralis will change?
I was looking at them. I think they'll lose somebody. I think Astralis will lose somebody. So let's do Astralis.
Okay. All right.
Objection, leading.
No, it's fine. I like this.
No, I was struggling with that one. I had some teams in mind, but I don't. During the season, I don't think there's a good chance for. I was gonna throw it on Navi, but I think that's more like second half of the season possibly. In case, you know, all these teams that did make changes, you know, they're gonna run over them and they realize they're behind now, you know, that type of a thing. It's not like I'm super sold on it though, so I didn't wanna force it. So I'll go with Astralis.
All right. Well, we got major winner G2, MVP Malbs, don't make the major complexity, breakout player or team NIP to make roster change Astralis, and team of the season Vitality. It's interesting, like, because you gave a lot of good reasoning there as to your picks, but then at the end, when you're saying, you know, like Na'Vi potentially for a change if other teams get ahead of them, I'm just thinking, like, to start the season, you would assume teams who have stronger bases, who haven't made any roster changes, like a Mouse, like a Na'Vi, like a Spirit, should have advantages because they're having to do less legwork. But at the same time, the other teams are like revitalized and they have this hunger to win that the other teams maybe are just carrying. Like, it wouldn't be Spirit, they'd be carrying like a lot of positivity off the back of the major win. So it's like, you know, it's either side of that coin, which is quite an interesting thing to have to consider.
But Navi also slowed down in the year, right? I mean, they bombed out of World Final, bombed out of the major, you know,
True.
So confidence is gone kind of from that massive run that they had. Of course, I mean, they can rediscover it. We saw it, you know, they won the major, they failed the next two tournaments, and what happened then, you know, they make 6 finals in a row. So I absolutely don't put it past them to still keep being really solid, because they've always won off of being a really solid team, rather than, of course, they had individual players, you know, stepping up at different points. They had a really solid base in that, but it was more the team that was working as a whole, that was pushing them forward. So I that's why I said I'm not necessarily super sold on it, because they're also quite. Navi have also been a team that are resistant to changes overall. So I think they're quite loyal to their players until something really goes wrong. So I don't actually believe that. So I didn't want to throw it on them.
Okay. I haven't really given this much thought, so I guess I need to give it some thought right now. I'm going to go with a really easy one for Don't Make the Major. So I'm just going to continue my hateful vendetta against orgs who drop the ball. So fnatic would be the team to not make the major. That's an easy one. You went with very storyline based for the G2, didn't you? For the major stuff. I'm just trying, like, it would be cool to see FaZe in the Liege and do well. I just think there's gonna be a lot of teething issues. So it's about like what teams will be peaking for the major victories. And then then I have to ask myself, okay, I'm looking down that list that you were going over. Do I think Maus are going to make any leaps and bounds? They're one of these teams who are established, right? So how much of a positive is that going to be for them, right? When their biggest issue is getting exertion to play well in stage matches. So I don't think I can like bring Maus into the conversation. I don't think they'll have done enough by then to get to that point. So I kind of want to be boring and see like if we, but also I don't know if I really believe in a Spirit back to back.
I think more I think about it, my opinion of Spirit is either they're the team of the season or they're going to make a change.
Wow.
Mouse?
Like it's almost,
Yeah.
it's maybe they're not team of the season, but like contention for team of the season. They're up there, maybe with a team or two. Or realistically, they have Kyosuke killing, you know? So there is, if they're not reaching their goals, then it makes sense that they would do this. And they probably would have done this if they didn't win the major, and also if Magix didn't like giga deliver in the final. Like all of these things really cemented them not changing the lineup, and it really makes no sense to change the lineup right now. But in case they can't, you know, consistently win in the next season, they have a free transfer waiting, like practically like a benched player that is amazing and very promising. So that's kind of where I am with Spirit.
No, fair enough. I think like I might just go for the memes a little bit, because Striker did something that was, you know, based off of a poor Nico. Well, I'll also go on like a poor Nico kind of vein. So obviously not his last girlfriend, but the one before that. And then we won't put like we'll make a Liege the major MVP, which would just be would be crazy. Like I don't have any belief in this happening, but that's when we come back to the time capsule.
I mean, this is kind of a 2-in-1, because in a way, like obviously FaZe ex-girlfriend, but also Elige is the, after Nico, the guy that
was missing
did the most and didn't win a major. And maybe you can put guardiaN, but guardiaN's not playing. He's playing actually, but he's not close to this discussion, right?
Okay, well, he's not in the top tier team yet.
Yeah, so like it would be funny, not really funny, but depends on who
no
you
one's
are.
laughing.
Right?
Yeah. I'm trying to think what type of team is in a position where they probably attend more events, because that's how I think like team of the season could be made, because you are going to want to win the big ones like the Katowice in the major. But if you go to some of these PGL events that not all the other top names are going to go to, that's your opportunity to pick up some really big trophies and still beat good teams, just not all the good teams. So I wonder what type of name like of the teams. Right? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So
they were going to the bed booms, you know, they were attending as much as they could.
Let's put Mauser's team of the season, which just seems crazy. I don't even know how it's going to happen, but this is going to be the craziest thing that ever comes to fruition. Team to make a roster change. You already did Falcons, didn't you? So I can't really do them. You did Astrala, Striker. I can't do them. Okay, who we got? I don't. Let's do something like fucking hell. We're going just wild around here. Let's put Liquid.
Whoa.
But the thing is, I don't even know who they would change, but I imagine if they do change anybody, they'd change Justin. That's what I think would happen. That's based off of nothing. That's just based off of like my opinion.
I mean, it could be like a situation where they decide they want an IGL instead of Twistzz.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is likely. I think this is one of the things that probably to them is super annoying to even hear, because there's been no indication that they want to do this, and all the pundits are like, oh, maybe they want to. It's like, you know, is tabseN going to go to FaZe? It's like, no, it's not happening, but there is a chance. And then you also don't want to kick Twistzz. You're still going to keep him, right? So who are you going to change? JKS have like a sacrificial IGL. Kind of makes sense. Could happen.
And then I guess breakout player of team. Fuck, this is a tough one. Yeah, I'm gonna have a tough time with this one. Where do Gamer Legion find themselves at the moment in the rankings?
18 in ours. Global is 15. So they'll get a bunch of these. They'll get. They're going to Bounty. They're going to get whatever. Yeah.
If you want to say they're a breakout team, where will they be at the end of the season?
Yeah, they'd have to kind of be established like close to top 10 team, right?
They'll
like,
have to start making playoffs, you know.
Yeah,
effectively, I would say that's kind of what would happen.
No, I don't foresee that being the situation. Fuck, Prof has to go in now.
And you don't know what's their last player as well.
That's true. That hasn't been announced just yet.
Yeah.
Fuck. I don't know. This one's a tough one. This one's one of the. I don't know. I'm drawing a blank.
Do you think Yosuke will play this season?
I don't think so. But we'll just put him because like let's just fucking go with all of it. So it's like this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, SUKE.
Lucky. Kiyasuki.
S-U-K-E. There you go.
Is that there's not
Yeah, that's
two
right.
U's?
That's
There
right.
is.
No,
Okay,
no,
the one thing with this, apparently we're pronouncing it wrong.
What is it?
It's like kioske.
Oh,
Oh, it's very weeby.
Yeah, apparently we've been pronouncing it wrong. That could
Fair
be
enough.
wrong. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. But yeah,
who said
Okay,
this?
we-
Who put them on blast? Who said this?
people in the comments in Talking Counter for the last episode, they were like, these guys can't even spend fucking 2 minutes checking out how to pronounce the guy's name correctly. It's like, oh, fuck, man.
Well, it's not his real
kid's-
name anyway. It's a Russian kid with a Japanese name. So what? It doesn't even watch anime. So how the fuck should I pronounce it? But also, I will respect
Salmon
it.
Barkin.
The man bucking the.
I'll respect it when
kioske.
he comes to events, and then we can ask him. Until then,
Oh, nice.
he's on the mercy of
Do it on lad.
yeah.
Well, we've sealed the time capsule up. I'm not really happy with mine, but that's fine. That's what this is all about. It's a nice little conversation starter for the future. All right. I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now, Lucas. That's gone. That's all done. And well, I guess that kind of works out perfectly. That's the episode. We've done 2.5 hours. That's another episode of HLTV Confirmed. Thanks to 1xBet. Thanks to Skin Place. Remember to gamble responsibly. And if you in the marketplace to sell some skins, head over to Skin Place. Thanks to Striker. Thanks to Prof. Thanks to Lucas. Thanks to everybody for tuning in and watching another episode. We'll be back next week after the award show, and I want to do something that's going to be a little bit more focused on the teams who have made roster changes and what we can expect out of positions that these teams are going to be playing. And I forget what I called it, but I think it was like expectation versus reality. So next one we'll do the expectation, then after the bounty we will do the reality
versus reality.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thanks everybody for
Amazing.
tuning in, and we'll see you next time. We'll see you at the award show. Goodbye.
The world is changing quickly. Shoot it.
The world is changing, but one thing remains the same. Victories with 1xBet.
Sell in-game items at the best prices in just a couple of clicks. We are the biggest instant sell service for in-game items like Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, and Rust. Easy selling process and instant withdrawal of funds to the most popular payment methods. More than 140,000 deals and 50,000 active sellers every month. Use promo code HLTV5 and get a 5% bonus on the sale of your skins. Skin Place. Sell items now.
Since the dawn of CSGO, we have been there. Observers of all that competition can reveal. Elation, fear, triumph, and heartache reach out from every frame. From the small studios and conference rooms to the epic arenas, the feeling is still the same. We live and breathe this game. This was CSGO Through the Lens. Buy now at hltv.org/shop.